Chapter 441. No need to be so polite. The old lady walked up and helped Long Xianli up. She laughed and said, then turned to the disciples by the side. Serve a tea. Yes, Valley Master. The two disciples immediately walked down. Sit first. The old lady waved her hand, then walked towards the master's seat. Thank you, Senior. Long Xianli bowed again, then sat by the side. Her actions were on point, not daring to overstep. The old lady saw everything and nodded her head, as though she was satisfied with Long Xianli's actions. When the tea was served, the old lady took a sip, then opened her mouth to ask, Girl, you're called Long Xianli, right? Yes, Senior. Long Xianli stood up. I am a clan elder of Sky Martial Continent's Immortal Sword Sect. My status is low. For Senior to be willing to meet me, I am truly grateful. I know you're from Immortal Sword Sect. The old lady smiled. But I do not know why you're here. Speak, why are you here? Since Senior is so frank, then Junior will not beat around the bush. Long Xianli bowed again, her expression revealing determination. Actually, Junior only has one goal, and that is to bring back my sect disciple by Yin Shan. Oh, the old lady was startled. She did not understand. For what I know, Bai Yin Shan is not your disciple, right? Why do you value her so much? Furthermore, Lin Shishan did not come to ask me for her. Why did you come? Could it be that Lin Shishan sent you? Junior's visit this time was not the intention of my sect leader, but Junior's willful actions. Long Xianli said lightly, Senior does not know, although this Junior is not Yin Shan's master, but the relationship between this Junior and Yin Shan is extremely complicated. Yin Shan's master died a few years ago, and this Junior clearly had the chance to take revenge, but did not do it. This Junior is afraid that this Junior will never be able to take revenge in this lifetime. So this Junior owes Yin Shan's master, and even more owes Yin Shan. So this time, no matter what happens, this Junior will not regret it. This Junior must bring Yin Shan back and ensure her safety. As Long Xianli spoke, her eyes focused on the old lady. She did not retreat in the slightest, nor was she afraid. She was at a loss. She knew that she would never be able to kill Su Yun and take revenge for Shen Hong, so she was filled with guilt towards Shen Hong. Bai Yin Shan was Shen Hong's proudest disciple, so she had to bring Bai Yin Shan back, even if it was just to compensate Shen Hong. The old lady looked at Long Xianli, and the corner of her mouth raised into a playful smile. Why can't you take revenge for Yin Shan's master? Long Xianli hesitated for a moment, then shook her head. Please forgive this Junior for not being able to speak frankly. Ha! If that's the case, then forget it. But if you want to take Bai Yin Shan away, that won't do. The old lady said, If Senior has any conditions, feel free to state them. If it is within Xian Li's capabilities, I will definitely fulfill it for Senior. Long Xian Li quickly said, Oh! The old lady blinked her eyes and nodded. If you say it like that, then our relationship is good. My request is not excessive. If you are willing to stay in Suicide Valley, I will let Bai Yin Shan go back. How about it? I will use you to exchange for her. Hearing that, Long Xianli did not hesitate and nodded. Senior, if that is the only condition, this Junior will not have any objections. Hearing that, the old lady was immediately overjoyed. What? You agree? Of course, but before that, this Junior wants to see Yin Shan. Long Xianli added. Hearing that, the old lady's smile froze. See Yin Shan? Yes. Long Xianli said. This Junior has a few words to say to Yin Shan personally. I hope that Senior will allow this Junior to see Yin Shan. Oh, that won't do. If you're willing to stay, then naturally you have to listen to this old lady. Since this old lady has agreed to let Bai Yin Shan leave, then I will let her leave immediately. And you must stay, understand? If you're not willing, this old lady will immediately chase you away, and then kill Bai Yin Shan. Then how will this Junior know if Bai Yin Shan has safely returned to the Emperor Palace? Long Xianli asked. Hearing that, Suicide Witch's wrinkled face turned cold. You don't trust this old lady? Xianli does not have any other intentions. I just want to make myself feel more at ease. If Senior is not able to satisfy this Junior's request, then this Junior will not be able to stay. Long Xianli said indifferently. Bang! A dull sound exploded in the hall, only to see the suicide witch fly into a rage, her pair of dim yellow eyes coldly staring at Long Xianli. How dare you? You actually dare to speak to this old lady like that? Girl, what do you think this is? Emperor Palace? This is Suicide Valley. This junior dares to come here, and has already disregarded life and death. If senior is not willing, this junior will definitely not stay in Suicide Valley. Even if this junior dies here, Long Xianli said resolutely, without any fear. A long time ago, she already did not care about life and death. Suicide, which was so angry that her eyes became round. She looked at Long Xianli with astonishment. She never thought that she would say such words. Damn it, girl. You asked for this. Those who offend me, Suicide Witch, will not have a good ending. Since that's the case, then don't blame me for being impolite. Someone come. The old witch shouted. But at this moment, several pink beads were thrown out from outside the hall, directly landing in the middle of the hall. Suicide, which was slightly startled, she looked at the beads, only to see a large number of cracks on the surface of the beads, and then they directly exploded. A thick pink dust mist drifted out, filling the entire hall. The pink dust mist had a thick, spicy smell. This strange qi could actually block people's spirit essences, making it difficult for people to immediately use profound energy to determine what was happening around them. Even Long Xianli was the same. She anxiously took out her weapon and looked around vigilantly. Junior sister. At this moment, a suppressed voice came out from the pink dust mist. Although the voice was very weak, Long Xianli recognized the owner of the voice. Senior sister? Long Xianli was stunned. But at this moment, a small hand reached over and directly grabbed her hand, hurriedly pulling it out. Quickly come with me, quick! Hu Qianmei's voice was filled with anxiety. Hearing that, Long Xianli did not dare to hesitate, and followed closely behind Hu Qianmei, but she never thought that Hu Qianmei would actually come here to save her. Although Hu Qianmei was hard to find a match in the Sky Martial continent, in the ultimate martial world, her cultivation was not high. Not to mention Hu Qianmei, even her own strength was negligible. To be able to rush to the Suicide Valley to save someone, how much courage did that take? Could it be that senior sister still cares about me? But how did she get here? Long Xianli felt that her heart was in a mess. But now was not the time to think about this. The suicide, which was already furious, the negotiation was obviously not going to work. She could only leave as soon as possible. Hu Qianmei seemed to be familiar with this place. She brought Long Xianli out of the strange withered tree with ease and directly landed outside the valley. The two of them activated their profound energy and frantically flew out. Two thin lines, one red and one white, flew across the sky. Senior sister, why are you here? Long Xianli looked at Hu Qianmei, who was dressed in red and had an exquisite and delicate appearance, and could not help but ask, You are only fit to die in my hands. I will not allow that old witch to kill you. Hu Qianmei snorted and said, although her words were not true. Long Xianli did not say a word, but her small face was filled with complexity. Hu Qianmei secretly looked at her, sighed, and said, But I have to say, aren't you overestimating yourself? You actually came here alone. You have been in the ultimate martial world for a while, and have even stayed in the Emperor Palace before. You should know who that suicide, which is right. To actually run there to ask for someone. Isn't that like a sheep entering a tiger's den? Don't you know who she is? What qualifications do you think you have to make the suicide which hand over by Yin Shan? Long Xianli bit her lips and said, I am ashamed to face Elder Shen Hong, although I do not know if this operation will succeed. But if I am indifferent, how can I be at ease? Pedantic, Hu Qianmei muttered. But after a moment, she changed her words. But if you were not so upright, it would not be like you. Crash! Just then, a sudden clap of thunder sounded out in the sky, followed by two green bolts of lightning rushing out of the clouds, striking towards the two of them. The two of them were shocked and immediately raised their weapons to block the lightning. Dong! Although they blocked the lightning, they could not block the powerful might contained within the lightning. The two of them fell from the sky and landed on the ground. Both of them were injured, and it was extremely difficult for them to stand up. Hu Qianmei coughed a few times and tried his best to support his body, wanting to stand up. Just then, a gigantic green cloud floated over from the sky. The cloud landed on a hill not far away, and then dispersed. A few figures appeared from the cloud. All of them were dressed in the Suicide Valley's attire, and the person leading them was the Suicide Valley Suicide Witch. So fast. He actually caught up so quickly. Hee, you really have guts. You actually dare to come to my Suicide Valley and behave atrociously. Girl, this old one admires you. But do you think that with your insignificant skills, you can slip away from under this old one's nose? Aren't you being too whimsical? The Suicide Witch walked over with a smile on her face. Her dim yellow eyes flashed with a bright light as she sized Hu Qianmei up. Seeing that, Hu Qianmei secretly swallowed a mouthful of blood and laughed with a clear voice. Yo, old granny, so you've already reacted? Ayaya. Actually, this junior was just joking with you just now. Old granny, don't mind it. At most, I'll just apologize to you, okay? Ha, your mouth is smeared with honey. It's full of glib tongue, but it's useless. This old one doesn't like it. The old witch snorted. Then her expression changed and coldly waved her hand at Hu Qianmei. However, if you dare to provoke this old one, you will have to pay the price for your actions. Kill her and extract her soul. I want to refine her soul into a medicinal pill. Yes, sir. The few Suicide Valley disciples behind immediately replied loudly. Hearing that, Long Xinli's face changed. No. What is it? Is she very important to you? The Suicide Witch looked at Long Xinli with interest. Long Xinli didn't know how to answer. If it's not important, why do you care about her? Senior, you can't kill her. Who do you think you are? Do you think I won't kill you just because you said so? The Suicide Witch coldly snorted. Long Xinli clenched her teeth, thought for a moment, and said in a low voice, Senior, if you don't kill my senior sister, Long Xinli is willing to do anything for you. I will definitely not have the slightest complaint towards Senior. Oh, really? Hearing that, the Suicide Witch immediately became spirited. Junior sister, you're too naive. Can't you tell that she said that on purpose? The goal is to get this out of you, Hu Qianmei said anxiously. But senior sister, I can't let you be implicated by me. You? Sigh. Hu Qianmei did not speak. Long Xinli turned her neck, looked at the Suicide Witch, and said, Senior, please immediately release my senior sister. Let her leave. Once she leaves, I will return to Suicide Valley with you. If anything happens to her, I will immediately destroy my own soul. The Suicide Witch nodded, then said to Hu Qianmei, You can go. Hu Qianmei looked at Long Xinli with a complicated expression, then looked at the Suicide Witch, rolled her eyes, as if she was thinking about something. Why aren't you leaving? The old witch seemed to be impatient. Hu Qianmei secretly snorted, did not say anything, and turned to leave. Seeing that, Long Xinli's nervous heart finally relaxed. Chapter 442. Are you satisfied this time? The Suicide Witch said indifferently. Long Xinli did not speak, and only let out a long sigh, feeling extremely helpless towards all of this. Hu Qianmei, who had escaped from the Suicide Valley, ran all the way towards the Emperor Palace. Although she knew that Lin Xishan and the rest would not help Long Xinli and Baiyin Shan, but as matters stood, she had no other choice and could only give it a try. Although the Emperor Palace was not one of the top sects in the ultimate martial world, it could still be considered to be a famous big sect. The Emperor Palace's Palace Master Wang Tianyang was even more so a big figure whose name resounded throughout the region. All the sects had to give him face, and even the so-called super sect had to be courteous to him. Dressed in red, Hu Qianmei urged her qi to fly into the clouds. Looking at the Emperor Palace's door at the end of the clouds, then looking at her own waist, she sighed. Although I followed the people from the Immortal Sword sect into the ultimate martial world, they all have a certificate of qualifications. I do not have one, so I become a lonely ghost. Adding that my strength is low, I am afraid that I will not be able to see Wang Tianyang. She rolled her eyes and seemed to have thought of something. She walked forward for a distance until she was 1,000 meters away from the magnificent golden door. Then, she sat down and rested her chin on her hand, waiting quietly. Her big black eyes and white fluffy foxtail made her look extremely cute. Sunrise and sunset, sunset and sunrise. The two Emperor Palace disciples who were guarding the door looked at Hu Qianmei suspiciously. The two of them had high cultivations, far from what Hu Qianmei could compare to. They could tell that Hu Qianmei was not as strong as them. And because they could not leave their posts, the two of them did not go over to ask. Every once in a while, the disciples of the Emperor Palace could be seen entering and exiting. It was bustling with noise and excitement. After an unknown period of time, finally, two people dressed in clothes that were different from the disciples of the Emperor Palace walked out from the door. They were the disciples of the Immortal Sword sect. The two of them were dressed in white sword robes, wielding long swords. Their expressions were serious. They bowed to anyone they met, acting extremely reserved. Although cultivating in the Emperor Palace is a great gift to the people of the Sky Martial Continent, but I always have to act like I am inferior. It is so uncomfortable. I would rather be free and be a rogue cultivator. That way I would be happier. Hu Qianmei muttered, then stood up and walked towards the two Immortal Sword sect disciples. The two disciples bowed towards the Sky Emperor Palace disciple who was guarding the entrance before walking out. Looking at their tense expressions, it was as though they were afraid of offending someone. But that was true. Even the sect leader wasn't ranked highly in the Heavenly Emperor Palace, let alone disciples like them. If they were impolite and accidentally angered someone, they would be the only ones who would be out of luck. Hey, you two, stop right there. Just as the two disciples were about to walk out, a voice rang out from the side and called out to them. The two of them were stunned and turned to look in the direction of the voice. They saw a young girl with fox ears and a large white tail behind her walking towards them. This is... The two of them began to size it up. I remember. She seems to be our third elder's senior sister? Yes, it's a senior sister. This person is our third elder's senior sister. Isn't that our elder? Idiot, who said that elder's senior sister is our elder. Then let's go take a look first. The two of them said in a low voice, and then walked towards Hu Qianmei. The two of them were still very respectful as they cupped their fists. Greetings, master. It seems like you know me. Hu Qianmei nodded her head, extended her small hand, and took down the order badge hanging on her waist, stuffed it into the hands of the two of them, and asked, "Do you still recognize this?" The disciple glanced at the order badge. His face was filled with shock, and said in astonishment, "This is our sect's order badge. This is the Elder's order badge." "That's right." Hu Qianmei nodded his head. "This is your clan Elder Long Xian Li's order badge." What? Hearing that, the two disciples immediately became serious and asked anxiously, "Master, may I ask where clan Elder Long is?" The two of us were ordered by the sect leader to search for traces of clan Elder Long. The third elder has already disappeared for a few days, and when she left, she did not inform the sect leader. The sect leader was worried that something might have happened to her, and specially ordered us to search for her. "Master, have you seen Clan Elder Long? May I ask how she is now? Where is she?" Hearing that, Hu Qianmei shook her head. "Not good. She is not good at all. Your third clan elder has already fallen into the hands of the Suicide Witch." What? The two's faces changed drastically. Suicide Witch? After experiencing the incident at the Emperor Palace, they were naturally not unfamiliar with this name and understood what kind of terrifying existence she was. "Don't talk nonsense. Quickly bring me to see your sect leader," Hu Qianmei said. The two of them looked at each other and nodded silently. One of them cupped his fists and said, "Master, you are not a member of the Emperor Palace. I'm afraid the two of us cannot bring you into the Emperor Palace. Please wait here for a moment. I will immediately go back and inform the sect leader of this matter, and ask the sect leader to summon you." Yes, with the sect leader's summons, the people of the Emperor Palace will not dare to stop us. Hu Qianmei nodded his head. "All right, go quickly. Please wait a moment." With that, one of them turned and ran away. Long Xianli held an important position in the Immortal Sword sect, upon hearing that Long Xianli had fallen into the hands of the suicide witch, Lin Shishan did not dare delay, and immediately asked the disciple to take his order badge and run out to invite Hu Qianmei. Although Lin Shishan was not considered strong, due to the relationship between his father and Wang Tianyang, Lin Shishan's position was not bad. With his order badge, the Emperor Palace disciples guarding the door did not dare to stop them, and immediately let Hu Qianmei in. After entering the palace and passing through the long golden cloud corridor, two Immortal Sword Sect disciples brought Hu Qianmei to a side hall. At that moment, Lin Shishan and a few elders of the Immortal Sword Sect were already seated. Tang Tian, Chun Nan, Xiao Zhengming, and Mo Wenshan and the rest were all present. Xiao Zhengming's expression was somewhat haggard. The heroic spirit between his brows was nowhere to be seen, and only worry remained. Although he was the 11th clan elder and ranked last, he was still the youngest clan elder of the Immortal Sword Sect. Many people knew that he had always been in love with Bai Yin Shan, and that he could not open his mouth. Now that Bai Yin Shan had been captured by the suicide witch, how could he not be worried? Hey, you're all here? Hu Qianmei entered the side hall and glanced at the people above. She did not greet them, nor did she greet them. Instead, she hugged her breasts and spoke in a strange tone. Hu Qianmei, you have guts. You actually did not kneel down to greet my sect leader. Tang Tian said coldly. Hu Qianmei was once a disciple of the Immortal Sword Sect, so these people naturally recognized her. Hey, kneel? Why should I kneel? You murderers who killed my master, and you still want me to kneel to you? Aren't you guys being too whimsical? Hu Qianmei sneered in disdain. Although the other party had a lot of people, she was not afraid at all. Her words caused the expressions of many people present to change slightly, as if they had thought of something extremely bad. Your master's death has nothing to do with us. Everything is just your guess. Tang Tian coughed and said, He. Hu Qianmei laughed, but did not say a word, as though she did not want to argue with them. But just then a solemn shout came from above, and the one who spoke was the sect leader of the Immortal Sword Sect, Lin Shishan. All right, today's important matter is not to talk about this. It's better for everyone to talk less. He turned his neck and looked at Hu Qianmei seriously. Hu Qianmei, let me ask you, you said that Elder Long was captured by the suicide witch. Is that true? Although I don't like her, Master still treats her like his own daughter and loves her. For Master, I will naturally not ignore her. Hu Qianmei said in his heart, and then told him everything that had happened in the Suicide Valley. Long Xianli went to the Suicide Valley alone to negotiate with the suicide witch, the old witch's scheme to keep Long Xianli and Bai Yin Shan, and so on. We found out that Long Xianli's goal in going to the Suicide Valley was for Bai Yin Shan. Xiao Zhengming clenched his fist tightly. As Hu Qianmei spoke, he quietly observed the expressions of the elders and sect leaders, only to realize that other than the youngest Xiao Zhengming, most of them were expressionless. Hu Qianmei frowned. I don't know why the suicide witch kept Long Xianli, but with the suicide witch's reputation, if Long Xianli continues to stay in the Suicide Valley, it will only bode ill. If you still care about Long Xianli and still treat her as your Immortal Sword Sect's third clan elder, then I hope that you can join hand with the Emperor Palace to go to the Suicide Valley as soon as possible and save Long Xianli and Bai Yin Shan. Time is of the essence. If you hesitate, I'm afraid that both of you will lose your lives. However, when she said this, there was no response at all. Some of them lowered their heads in deep thought. Some closed their eyes and did not say a word. The entire hall was extremely quiet. Seeing that, Xiao Zhengming could not hold it in any longer. He was about to stand up and speak, but he was anxiously held down by Chun Nan. Elder Chun, Xiao Zhengming said anxiously. However, Chun Nan lightly shook his head and firmly pressed down on his shoulder, telling him not to act rashly. Seeing that, Xiao Zhengming hesitated for a long time. In the end, he fiercely punched his thigh and turned his head to the side, his expression incomparably pained. Hu Qianmei saw everything. The corner of her mouth raised into a sneer, and her eyes were filled with laughter. What's wrong? The experts of the Immortal Sword Sect? Why aren't you saying anything? What's there to hesitate about in such a matter? It's not as simple as you think. Lin Shishan shook his head and said indifferently, actually, something like this happened before. The suicide witch's skills are extraordinary, and the suicide valley is filled with even more mechanisms like a gigantic turtle shell. It is incomparably hard and difficult to break through. Our immortal sword sect's strength is weak. With just us, it is impossible to save Clan Elder Long and our sect's disciple by Yin Shan. You can ask for help from the Emperor Palace. Lin Shishan sighed. Uncle Wang has already said it clearly. He will not take action against the suicide valley. That means you guys don't care about Long Xianli and Bai Yinshan's lives? Hu Qianmei smiled. It's not that we don't care, it's that we don't have the ability to. Tang Tian said, in the end, we are people of the Sky Martial Continent. We are not the suicide witch's opponent. Could it be that you want us to send ourselves to our deaths? What a joke. To save them, do we have to fight head-on? There are so many of you. Can't you think of a plan? If you can't use force, you can't use your wits? What's the point of having a head? Hee, it's clearly because you guys are afraid of the suicide witch and don't dare to interfere. Truly a group of sanctimonious people, Hu Qianmei said in disdain. Maybe it was the wrong decision for me to come and find you. Hu Qianmei snorted. He immediately turned and walked towards the side hall, not even turning his head. Wasted my time, since you guys have given up on Long Xianli and Bai Yinshan, then forget it. I will think of a way to save them myself, although my strength is low, but I, Hu Qianmei, cannot always be this strong. Immortal Sword Sect is a group of incompetent people. You guys just watch. With that, he had already walked out of the side hall. It was as if he did not want to waste even a second here. How impertinent! Tang Tian was enraged. He was about to take action to capture Hu Qianmei, but was stopped by Lin Shishan. Forget it, Elder Tang. Lin Shishan looked outside the door, took a deep breath, and said, maybe she's right. Chapter 443. Boom! An intense explosion came out from the stage. Two figures separated from the center of the stage and fell to the side of the stage. The terrifying, destructive power rippled out like a ripple, and everywhere it passed, it was like withered grass and broken wood. The originally perfectly repaired stage was once again in ruins. The sky darkened, as though a storm was approaching. All of the spectators held their breaths as they watched the two figures on the ground. The intense battle had completely pulled them into an intoxicated state that they could not extricate themselves from. Now, everyone was only concerned about who could stand up and who could win in the end. Lu Lang is known for his ferocity. His attacks are swift and fierce, like a hungry wolf. He does not hold back in any of his mystical techniques. Using all of his strength, he fought extremely fiercely at the start, as though he was suppressing Qin Si. But towards the end, he started to show signs of weakness and used his spirit Qi without restraint, causing the conservative Qin Si to reverse the situation. Su Yun, who was seated in the participants' seat, muttered as he analyzed the situation. The two of them seemed to be at the fourth stage of the Spirit Master realm, and any one of their moves was a technique that could destroy the heaven and earth. If not for the special treatment of the competition grounds, the entire place would have been leveled. Lu Lang was not weak, but Qin Si was proficient in defense. He did not manage to defeat his opponent at the start, and as time went on, the situation became even more disadvantageous to him. Su Yun did not place any bets for the following matches. He did not understand the other participants, and did not know who was stronger or weaker, so placing bets would only result in a loss. But he had confidence in his own matches, so he decided to play. Although at this stage, the strength of the participants was unfathomable, but he had already given it his all. The punishment for losing was extremely severe, so why not give himself some pressure? Brother Su, who do you think will win this round? Lu Zhanyuan asked softly. Su Yun gently shook his head, but did not say a word. He could not say for sure. They were all participants from the official organizations, who knew if they had any trump cards. Crack! Just then, a clear sound came out from the stage. Everyone immediately turned to look at the stage, only to see Qin Si standing up while gasping for breath. What was even more shocking was that the injured Qin Si's complexion was gradually recovering, The wounds on his body were actually starting to heal, and the torn clothes on his body were also recovering. This strange phenomenon shocked many of the audience. A few of them looked carefully and realized that there were circles of gray talismans floating around Qin Si's body. All of the talismans were revolving quickly with him as the center. Because of the faint color and the extremely fast revolving speed, no one noticed them. The talisman released a profound aura that enveloped Qin Si. It regenerated his skin and flesh and restored his equipment. Is this a magic treasure? Lu Zhanyuan finally sensed that something was wrong with Qin Si and asked. Most likely, Qin Si is the representative of the organization. All of his treasures are provided by the organization. How can he be weak? Su Yin said indifferently. I never thought that the organization would actually give Qin Si such a healing treasure. I wonder what grade it is, but it is definitely not low. Lu Zhanyuan said. Healing magic treasure? Su Yin was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. Zhanyuan, have you ever seen a healing magic treasure that can restore a person's clothes? Hearing that, Lu Zhanyuan looked at Qin Si and was speechless. Then maybe this is a treasure that can restore one's body. Maybe it can restore Qin Si's entire body back to its original state. Su Yin took a deep breath. He looked at Qin Si's eyes that were gradually becoming clearer and filled with spirit qi, and said, the current Qin Si has most likely recovered all of the spirit qi in his body. That means, isn't Lu Lang going to lose for sure? Lu Zhanyuan was startled. To actually have such a treasure, doesn't that mean that anyone who goes against Qin Si will definitely lose? Su Yin did not say a word. At that moment, Qin Si had already recovered to his peak condition. He walked towards Lu Lang step by step. His footsteps were extremely loud and clear in the silent competition grounds. Lu Lang's entire body was filled with wounds, especially his hands. They were completely burnt. All of his bones were broken. They were crippled, and blood flowed out nonstop. Despicable. Lu Lang raised his head with all his might. His eyes that were dripping with blood stared at Qin Si with unwillingness. During the fight, you intentionally crippled my hands. Is it to prevent me from using my treasure? So despicable. Lu Lang was also a representative of the organization and naturally had a body full of life-saving treasures. But during the fight, Qin Si had pretended to kill him, wanted to take his life, but in truth, he was aiming for his hands. In the final clash of killing techniques, Lu Lang had aimed for Qin Si's heart, while Qin Si had aimed for Lu Lang's hands. Qin Si was heavily injured, while Lu Lang's hands were crippled, but he never expected that Qin Si would still have the strength to take out a treasure to save himself. Although he had a lot of strength, he did not have his hands, so it was difficult for him to take out a treasure from his spatial bag to save himself. With that, the victor was decided. The victor is the king. There is no such thing as being despicable or not. You can only blame yourself for being stupid. Qin Si said indifferently. He then raised his leg and ferociously kicked towards Lu Lang's head. Spirit Qi wreaked havoc on his leg. Lu Lang's eyes were wide open. Boom! A dull sound came out from a stage. The spirit Qi on Qin Si's leg smashed onto Lu Lang's body like a 10,000-kilogram sledgehammer. Lu Lang did not even have the time to defend and was directly kicked to the point that his body exploded. Blood and organs splattered everywhere. Blood splattered everywhere, and a blood mist blossomed on the stage. The stage was instantly dyed into purgatory. Lu Lang was completely dead. Everyone was shocked. Murder. It was a blatant murder. In such a situation, even a 3-year-old child would be able to tell that it was not an intentional murder. However, the judges did not dare to obstruct him. The judges did not dare to show any signs of breaking the rules. Even the spectators did not dare to reveal any dissatisfaction. As an official representative, Qin Si had a giant standing behind him, and Qin Si's actions represented the provocation of the Yu Shuang auction house towards the Gong Chain Chamber of Commerce. How powerful were the two great chambers of commerce? Who would dare to provoke them? The workers below the stage looked at the mess on the stage, but no one dared to go up. At that moment, the entire place was dead silent. Qin Si snorted, then turned and flew towards the pavilion. Nearing the pavilion, He cupped his fists and flew in. After a long while, the competition grounds started to become noisy. No one was cheering. No one was cursing. The atmosphere had become extremely strange. Is this a competition? Perhaps this was more like a competition between a few chambers of commerce? Suyin thought. Lu Lang was eliminated, and there were not many participants left. Zhu Wen trembled a few times. He looked around, then climbed up and shouted with a trembling voice. The winner of this round is the participant from the Yushuang Chamber of Commerce, Qin Si. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us now enter the next round, then who will be the next participant? With that, the screen started to move again. Everyone's attention was focused. Whoosh. The screen stopped. Su Yin versus Li Chongzai. A battle between two fast swords. When the two names appeared, the originally strange atmosphere of the competition grounds was instantly ignited. The cheers and shouts resonated throughout the entire competition grounds. It's actually Su Yun and Li Chongzai. That's great. Ha! These two fast swords are finally going to decide the victor. I thought that one of them would be eliminated, but who knew that they would meet each other? Li Chongzai, you can do it. Su Yun will definitely win. I hope that it will be an exciting competition. The entire competition grounds were boiling with excitement. The majority of the spectators revealed looks of excitement. They were extremely interested in the battle between Su Yun and Li Chongzai. Even the participants who were still recuperating in their resting rooms. Upon hearing that Su Yun and Li Chongzai were about to fight, they all ran out and raised their heads to watch. I never thought that it would be these two. Seems like the excitement level of this competition will not belong to Lu Lang and Qin Si. Lu Gu said with a smile. Watch carefully. The two of them are not weak. Even we have to be careful against them. Maybe we can learn a thing or two from them. Xiao Ziru said coldly. Lu Gu nodded his head. In the participants' seating area, Han Yu Xin turned her gaze and looked at the man in the black cloak in the Group D region. He slowly stood up and took out a 1 million cultivation coin card and handed it to the servant beside him, then walked towards the walkway. Half of the spectators had their eyes on Li Chongzai, while the other half were on Su Yun. Who will be the fastest swordsman of this era? Let this duel determine the victor. The host Zhu Wen shouted out. So, in the Group A region, a figure swept past. Following that, Li Chongzai hugged onto his long and slender sword and stood perfectly straight on the stage. His movements were extremely fast. No one could catch up to his speed. It was a breathtaking move. But Su Yun did not rush forward like Li Chongzai. He walked up the stairs step by step, the stage slowly returning to its original state. Just like his footsteps, it gradually changed, just that the changes on the stage could be seen by everyone. But Su Yun's changes were hazy. It was extremely unreal. Li Chongzai squinted his eyes. Su Yun stood still and raised his head to look at Li Chongzai. Half of his pale white face was revealed under his cloak. He touched the sword sheath behind him and took out the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword. He unsheathed it and pointed it at the ground. Young noble Su, I will use all of my strength. I hope that you will not hold back and fight me with all your strength. Li Chongzai unsheathed the sword in his hand and spoke to Su Yun with a serious expression. All right, Su Yun replied with a single word and did not say anything else. Li Chongzai's expression gradually became solemn. Now, will the two participants please get ready? Zhu Wen shouted out. The moment the voice came out, Li Chongzai's entire body released a spirit qi that was even sharper than blades, even sharper than swords. The spirit qi swept out in all directions, and before Zhu Wen could even finish speaking, he was directly thrown off the stage by the spirit qi. It was truly tyrannical beyond compare. Dong! The bell for the competition sounded out. With the sound of the bell, the competition officially began. Li Chongzai did not give up. He held onto the sword in his hand and rushed towards Su Yun. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Su Yun, and at the same time, 3 Li Chongzais appeared behind Su Yun. Clones. Chapter 444. The 4 Li Chongzai at the front, back, left, and right all adopted the same stance, raising their swords and slashing at Su Yun. His entire body was like a balloon that was suddenly deflated, frantically releasing swift wind spirit qi. while the four Li Changzais brandished their swords at an extremely fast speed, like four rapidly spinning fans. They unleashed a torrential storm of attacks at Su Yun. Facing the attacks from four directions, Su Yun could completely rely on the 7th-tier Imperial equipment to block them. But at that moment, he was looking forward to fighting against Li Changzai's fast swords head-on. If I were to use Imperial equipment, wouldn't it be boring? Su Yun thought. He held onto the immortal, mystical Scarlet Bloodsword in one hand and the Desolator in the other. He shifted his center of gravity to his feet and spun around. Both of his hands continued to wave, blocking the incoming sword blades. The spectators were dazzled. They could only see sword images on the stage, sparks and spirit chi ripples blossoming out. Su Yun's hands could no longer be seen, while Li Changzai could still see a few afterimages, but not much. The two of them had already broken through the horizon. It was something no ordinary person could imagine. Seeing Su Yun's relaxed expression and stable spirit chi, Li Changzai knew that his attack from four directions had no effect on Su Yun. He immediately lowered his arm and retracted his sword. He gathered all the spirit chi in his body and unleashed another technique. Tornado Rain Strike. With a loud shout, the three illusory figures turned into sharp arrows and flew towards Li Changzai's main body, while Li Changzai's legs suddenly tapped on the ground and leaped into the air. His body quickly spun in the air, and when the three illusory figures got close, they overlapped with his body. He brandished the sword in his hand, and rows of sword images enveloped him. Whoosh whooshay, strong gale blew from all directions. The wind was like cold swords that sliced toward Su Yun. This technique was similar to the Divine Wind Sword Technique's final technique, Single Sword Ascending Wind, but its might was many times weaker than the Single Sword Ascending Wind. If Li Changzai was only like that, Su Yun would not be afraid of him, but this technique was definitely not like that. Following Li Changzai's spinning speed, a strong gale started to revolve around his body, and very quickly, a raging dragon-like tornado formed and quickly flew towards Su Yun. The tornado connected to the sky. Its imposing aura shocked the entire field. Seeing that, Su Yun's eyes congealed. He took a step back with his left foot. Wielding both swords, he stared at the approaching tornado. When the surrounding staff saw this, they immediately distanced themselves from the stage. Even the four judges did not dare to be negligent. Zhang Guahao had already taken out his magic treasure and activated a defensive magic treasure to protect the four of them, so that they would not be affected by the remaining power of the tornado. Zhu Wen was the only unlucky one. He was blown away by the wind and crashed into the edge of the arena. He almost fainted. The items around the stage were all over the place, and the scene became a mess. The spectators held their breaths and stared at the stage. Such a terrifying move. Would Su Yun be able to withstand it? At this moment, Su Yun's eyes suddenly released a black smoke. Following that, the blood-red, immortal, mystical Scarlet Bloodsword and the formless Desolator released a large amount of evil chi. The two swords started to tremble. Evil spirit chi? Xiao Ziru was startled. Chi! The shrill cries of the evil souls erupted from the twin swords. Two gigantic evil souls leaped out of the swords and glared at the approaching tornado. Su Yun closed his eyes once again and entered the ethereal realm. Wind. Strong wind. An unquenchable and powerful wind. He could clearly feel everything. Su Yun calmed his mind and relaxed his state of mind to the maximum, then slowly opened his eyes. Although it was just a moment, but in his heart, it felt like a long time had passed. Li Changzai's tornado rain strike had already arrived. He once again raised the Desolator and the immortal mystical Scarlet Bloodsword. Just like how he fought against the Blade and Sword Emperor Shenwuya, he displayed a wide stance. His right hand would slash horizontally, then slash vertically. His left hand would stab straight and slash diagonally. His steps would be extremely wide. At times he would leap left, at times he would leap right. The exaggerated movements caused everyone to be perplexed. But it was all an illusion. In truth, Su Yun had already started to brandish his swords frantically. Both of his hands were like machines that were brandishing with all his might, causing afterimages to overlap, creating the illusion. The two evil souls on the swords also started to dance, forming a gigantic pitch-black wall of evil swords in front of him. The tornado struck the wall of evil swords, but was unable to penetrate it. Ding, ding, dang, dang. The clashing sounds intertwined together, transforming into ear-piercing chi sounds that sounded like the roars of fierce beasts. Many of the spectators covered their ears. They were extremely annoyed by the sounds. But even more of them were deeply attracted by the swift and shadowless battle, to the point that they forgot themselves. Suddenly, clang! Li Chang's eye, who was constantly spinning, suddenly stopped. He leapt backwards and landed about 10 m away from Su Yun, then stopped moving. Seeing that, Su Yun immediately stopped his arms. But he did not look at Li Chang's eye, but looked above him. Li Chang's eye was just an illusion. The real Li Chang's eye had already rushed into the sky and unleashed his attack. I never thought that my tornado rain strike would not be able to injure you at all. Su Yun, you truly are powerful. Eat this. Swift dragon devours the heavens. Li Chang's eye bellowed, both of his hands holding onto the sword hilt. He used the sword tip to continuously spin at Su Yun. The sword tip formed a large circle that was like a huge mouth that swallowed Su Yun. But Su Yun was no longer willing to defend. He stared at Li Chang's eye, holding onto both swords tightly. He actually copied Li Chang's eye. His legs suddenly tapped on the ground, and his body started spinning. Whoosh! Evil chi surged out from his body and covered his entire body, finally transforming into a gigantic evil spirit that struck towards Li Chang's eye. Roar! The evil spirit roared. Evil sword technique. Evil shadow suppression. Li Chang's eyes were wide open. He stared straight at the evil spirit's mouth. In that moment, a large number of sword images that were evolving quickly shot out from the mouth, and with an aura that could swallow mountains and rivers, they flew towards his sword tip. Chi, 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 the three high-speed revolving sword tips spun crazily. Sparks flew everywhere. Spirit chi rippled, and a destructive spirit chi exploded in the air. Li Chang's eye held onto both swords tightly. He used all of his strength to stabilize himself. But just at that moment, he realized that his hands were slowly trembling. And as time passed, the trembling became faster and faster. Shit! Su Yun's speed is actually so fast. Li Chang's eyes were wide open, staring at the sword images that the evil spirit had spat out, his heart jumping. My limit in a second is close to 700 swords. But he is actually close to 1,000 swords. He has suppressed me for a total of 300 swords. Do not look down on 300 swords. Li Chang's eye was a fast sword practitioner. He knew that the difference between 700 swords and 1,000 swords was not just 300 swords. When a person's strength reached a certain realm, it would be extremely difficult to take another step forward. Li Chang's eye was like that. He trained every day and did not know fatigue, and now it was not easy for him to improve his speed. Even if it was just one more sword, it would require a lot of effort. Suddenly, kacha 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 kacha, an extremely soft sound that shook Li Chang's eye's heart sounded out. Li Chang's eye felt as if his soul had been struck by someone. He became absent-minded. He anxiously looked towards the source of the sound, only to realize that it was his own sword. A large amount of evil chi was frantically clashing onto the sword blade. One after another, they were trying their best to tear it apart. The sword blade was quickly covered with spiderweb-like cracks. And in the next moment, clang dang, the sword shattered. Li Chang's eye was shocked. He immediately took out a defensive treasure, intending to defend, but it was too late. A large number of sword images filled with evil chi struck over, causing Li Chang's eye's body to be struck by close to 100 swords. He immediately roared out and detonated the spirit chi in his body, causing an intense explosion to sound out in the sky. Spirit chi self-detonation. In truth, it could not be considered a technique, but a method of self-mutilation, since the spirit chi had not left his body for long. The one to detonate was naturally himself. But Li Chang's eye had no choice but to do it. If he did not force Su Yun away, he would be sliced into pieces by the opponent's sword. Li Chang's eye instantly dropped down from the sky, while Su Yun was forced back by Li Chang's eye's desperate struggle, causing him to stop slashing. Boom! Li Changzai fiercely crashed into the ground, creating a large crater on the stage. He coughed twice and crawled up with difficulty. His entire body was covered with spiderweb-like sword wounds. Blood flowed out and dyed his robes red. He was in a sorry state. Blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. His face was pale white. His right hand was still holding onto the sword hilt that had been split open. So the evil qi in the air dissipated. Su Yun, who was dressed in a black cloak, landed on the ground, his hands holding onto a sword that was enveloped with evil qi. He looked at Li Changzai quietly. I didn't expect you to attach profound energy to your sword. Unbelievable. Too unbelievable. Cough, cough. Li Changzai held on his chest with his left hand and said weakly, imbuing profound spirit qi into the sword is easy for ordinary profound spirit cultivators. But for those who train in fast sword techniques, it is not easy. When you unleash over 100 swords in a breath, the spirit essences and qi channels in your body are unable to keep up with the frequency of the swords. So you're unable to unleash an attack with profound spirit qi in every sword. And because of the frequency of the swords being too fast, the qi channels will be rushed, and the spirit essences will easily become chaotic. So it is extremely easy to cause the profound spirit qi in the body to become chaotic, and the qi channels will shatter. So fast sword techniques do not use profound spirit qi, and purely rely on the sharpness of the sword and the power of the profound spirit qi to increase the power of the body. Su Yun said indifferently, not bad. Li Changzai nodded his head in agreement, his eyes tensing up at the same time. Then, how are you able to unleash such a fast sword that is infused with spirit qi? Aren't you afraid that the profound energy in your body will go haywire and your body will explode to death? I'm not afraid. Why? Because I've trained seriously. Su Yun said, you trained before? Li Changzai was startled. That's right, I've trained before. Su Yun nodded his head seriously. Any martial technique is not something that can be mastered in a day, and it is the same for fast swords. Which spirit cultivator has ever thought of unleashing 1,000 swords in a second? Even if they had thought of it, could they do it? No, it requires us to train for many years and years. And it is the same for imbuing spirit qi into swords. I am unable to imbue spirit qi into every single one of the 1,000 swords, so I will first imbue one sword. And when the first sword matures, I will imbue 2 swords. And when the second sword matures, I will imbue 3 swords, and so on and so forth, until I can perfectly imbue spirit qi into 1,000 swords. This is not training your speed, nor is it training your reaction speed, but training your spirit essences and qi channels. In truth, these two things are the same as our hands and heart. Hands are fast. If your heart is fast, your sword will be fast, and if your spirit essences and qi channels are fast, you will be able to produce such an effect. So, to do this, you need to train and continue to train. Hearing that, Li Changzai looked at Su Yun in a daze. He had never heard such words before. Chapter 445. Fast hands, fast heart, fast spirit essences, fast qi channels. Li Changzai's heart was jumping crazily. He felt that his thoughts could no longer keep up with Su Yun's words. He had always thought that as long as he could fuse his hands, his heart, and his sword as one, he would be able to train the fastest sword in the world, and he had always been moving towards that goal. But now, he realized that he was wrong. His sword was not the fastest, nor was it the strongest. He finally understood that he had too little understanding toward the so-called qi, so-called power, and even the so-called sword. I have to admit, Su Yun, your realm is higher than mine, but as a sword user, how can I admit defeat so easily? Li Changzai said weakly. He raised the broken sword hilt in his hand and took a deep breath. He took out a crystal jade bottle from his spatial bag and crushed it. He grabbed the light aura powder inside and smeared it on the broken sword hilt. His eyes revealed a look of determination. It was his final killing technique. Su Yun watched quietly and did not attack him at this time. Seeing that, Li Changzai's eyes revealed a look of gratitude. Thank you, Su Yun. You have given me the dignity of swordsman. There's no need for thanks. I just want to know what the limit of your sword is. Su Yun kept the desolator and held onto the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword with one hand and looked at Li Changzai calmly. The limit of my sword? Li Changzai revealed a pale smile. You will never imagine it. With that said, Li Changzai's expression suddenly turned sinister. He grabbed onto the sword hilt that was smeared with the strange powder and directly stabbed it towards his own heart. Pucci! The crack on the hilt of the sword tore open his chest, and dark red blood flowed out. Hua! The entire field was in an uproar. Countless of spectators stood up and stared at Li Changzai with shock, astonishment, confusion, and confusion. What is he doing? Committing suicide? What's wrong with Li Changzai? Li Changzai, don't give up. Li Changzai, I have placed a huge bet on you. You must win. You must defeat Su Yun. The spectators cheered loudly, cheering for Li Changzai. In truth, with his current state, he could just lie on the ground and pretend to be heavily injured and admit defeat. Many participants had used that method, but for his dignity, he gave up on it. Moreover, he still wanted to fight. He would fight for victory once more. Li Changzai's eyes stared straight at Su Yun, his eyes filled with unwillingness and unswerving determination. His hands that were holding onto the sword hilt started to move slowly. The sword hilt followed his movements and slowly moved outwards. This is? Su Yun squinted his eyes. He realized that Li Changzai's movements were extremely similar to his own. It was exactly the same as when he took out the contracted victory sword from Ling Qingyu's body. As expected, Li Changzai's hand continued to move outwards, and the sword hilt slowly separated from his chest. What surprised everyone was that the sword hilt had completely healed, and a blood-red sword gradually separated from his chest. All of the participants were shocked. All of them looked at Li Changzai in astonishment. Finally, crash! The blood-red sword left his body. At that moment, the entire arena was filled with the stench of blood. The sky was dark, and a strong wind blew. It was as if an earth-shattering monster had descended. What a powerful killing intent. What sword is this? Su Yun held onto the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword tightly and asked, Cold Sun, cruel blood sword, using my own life as the source to refine this mystical sword. Li Changzai took a deep breath and pointed the sword tip at Su Yun. Today, Su Yun, I will definitely defeat you. If not, I will have a lifetime of regret. I will do my best to satisfy you. Su Yun said. This was no longer out of respect for Li Changzai, but a response to an enemy who had provoked him. The wounds on Li Changzai's body started to heal, and a large number of blood-red patterns appeared all over his body, like venomous snakes crawling all over his body. The color of the patterns were exactly the same as the Cold Sun cruel blood sword. In just a short moment, Li Changzai had fully recovered. No, the current him was even stronger than before. Is this burning his own life? Xiao Ziru, who was below the stage, stood up and exclaimed in shock. Participant Li Changzai, if you do that, you will definitely shorten your lifespan and cause your cultivation to regress. You still have time to stop now. Quickly stop. My cultivation can still be trained. Once my cultivation is high, what does my lifespan matter? If I do not defeat Su Yun today, I will have a demonic barrier in my life, and in the future, it will be hard for me to reach the great Tao. Li Fuzai shouted. Hearing that, Xiao Ziru frowned. When the judge's words fell into the audience's ears, the audience immediately burst into an uproar. Burning one's life? Is Li Fuzai crazy? His origin life is his 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls. Upon overexertion, he will die. Does Li Fuzai truly want to win against Su Yun? Isn't the price too high? Li Fuzai's actions are truly not worth it. Many people shook their heads at Li Fuzai's actions. Without talent, his cultivation would regress, and he would lose all of his advantages. A genius had fallen just like that. Regardless of whether Li Fuzai won or lost, he would be the final loser. But no matter how loud the commotion was, Li Changzai did not care. He only had Su Yun in his eyes, and in his mind, there was only one thought: defeat him. Finally, Li Fuzai could no longer remain calm. With a sinister face, he rushed forward like a whirlwind. Raising his sword, he pierced towards Su Yun. However, just as he was about to approach Su Yun, his body suddenly froze. No, it was not a freeze. It was an afterimage. Instantaneous burst of speed. Su Yun's eyes tensed up. Just as Li Fuzai was about to reach him, he suddenly increased his speed by a few times, causing an afterimage to appear, while his original body had already circled behind him. What a fast speed! Compared to before, his speed was many times faster. Su Yun immediately turned and held onto the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword to block behind him. Clang! The two blood-red swords interweaved together. Although it was just one move, Li Fuzai's current strength was many times stronger than before, and his speed was comparable to Su Yun's. Su Yun, it's not over yet. Receive this move of mine. Li Fuzai said sinisterly. Then his figure disappeared again. Whoosh! The dense sword images suddenly enveloped Su Yun from above. What a powerful attack! Su Yun's body exploded. He directly moved to the side of the stage and dodged the attack. Li Fuzai landed on the ground. At that moment, the blood-red patterns on his body were glowing with light auras. As though his body had an inexhaustible amount of energy, he was extremely powerful. Su Yun took a light breath. He did not reveal any panic. He stared at Li Fuzai and suddenly extended his hand out and brandished the blood-red sword. So. One after another, terrifying sword chi flew out and attacked Li Fuzai. However, Su Yun's speed was extremely fast, but the sword chi speed was extremely slow. Before they could even get close to Li Fuzai had already moved away. Basically, Li Fuzai's afterimages were all on the stage. His original body had long left. No one could clearly see Li Fuzai's original body. On the stage, the sword concept was constantly being produced. The powerful spirit chi fluctuated wantonly, as though it was the center of a storm. Although Li Fuzai's attacks were powerful, he was the same as Su Yun, unable to touch Su Yun. Su Yun's speed was not slow either. Whenever Li Fuzai attacked, Su Yun would always be able to dodge. Li Fuzai continued to attack, but was unable to do so. He knew that he could not maintain his current state for long. So he stopped and bellowed. If this goes on, it will only be a waste of time. Su Yun, I am going to use my ultimate technique. Ultimate technique? Su Yun frowned. Li Fuzai suddenly retreated to the side of the stage. He stared at Su Yun, and the cold sun cruel blood sword in his hand directly pierced towards the ground. Whoosh! The blood-red sky suddenly split apart, and a blazing red ray of sunlight descended from the sky, straight towards Su Yun. A powerful destructive force descended from the sky, and inside the light aura, there were actually millions of thin swords. They were like thin needles descending from the sky, ferociously attacking him. Just a glance at it was enough to make one feel terrified. Su Yun hurriedly dodged. The beam of light smashed into the stage, instantly creating a bottomless hole. What a terrifying, destructive force. Too terrifying. If that were to hit a person, wouldn't they turn into ashes? Would their soul be destroyed? Is that the power of an origin weapon? I am afraid that even a 6th-stage Spirit Master Cultivator would not be able to receive that attack, right? The spectators outside the stage all spoke with lingering fear. A few of the spectators who were closer to the stage hurriedly stood up and left their seats, hiding far away, afraid that they would be affected by the attack. Seeing that his attack did not hit, Li Fuzai held onto his sword again and attacked again. Sword light descended from the blood-red sky again. Boom, boom, boom. The sword light continued on, and holes appeared in the center of the stage one after another. The stage was in a state of desolation, causing the spectators' scalps to go numb. The power was too great, and he could not block it head-on. Su Yun, who was constantly dodging, looked up at the sky, his mind quickly thinking of a countermeasure. But right at that moment, a gust of wind suddenly blew towards him. Su Yun's mind tensed up. He immediately raised his sword to block. Clang! The sword tip seemed to have struck something hard. He looked up and saw that Li Fuzai had unknowingly rushed forward again. He controlled the strange mystical technique to attack Su Yun, and at the same time, he wielded his sword with one hand and slashed at Su Yun. The speed of the sword was extremely fast, and the frequency of the sword lights descending became faster and faster. Gradually, Su Yun became more and more strained. While dodging the attacks of the sword lights, he blocked Li Fu Zai's attacks at the same time. The burden on him was too great, and, in the current situation, it was not enough to rely on his reaction speed and eyesight. If this continues, I will definitely lose. Su Yun's expression became solemn. He looked at Li Fu Zai, who was becoming more and more berserk, and no longer held back. He took a deep breath and knocked away the sword in front of him. He immediately leapt backwards and pulled apart the distance between them. He then raised the scarlet blood sword in his hand and placed the sword tip in front of his eyes. After that, he closed his eyes. Huh? Li Fu Zai was startled. Closing my eyes at this time? Isn't that seeking death? But just as he was thinking about that, the sharp spirit chi around Su Yun suddenly disappeared. What's going on? Chapter 446. He closed his eyes and slowly raised the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword in his hand. The sharp aura around him disappeared without a trace, and he seemed to have returned to normal, becoming like an ordinary mortal. Strange. How strange. Li Changzai's heart was pounding. His eyes did not dare leave Su Yun's body as he stared at him. The calmer Su Yun was, the more uneasy he felt. Li Changzai had never been so focused before. He had taken revenge, cultivated bitterly, and killed powerful beings. However, no matter what it was, it couldn't make him as strict and serious as he was today. Perhaps it could be said that Su Yun was his mortal enemy. The blood-red sky suddenly changed, and bits of grayish-black color gradually dyed the sky, as if a night without stars had descended. At the same time, gusts of wind suddenly blew, and the wind was like knives scraping everyone's body, and as time passed, the wind became stronger and stronger. The damaged parts of the stage were blown away by the wind, and even the powerful spirit cultivators were not spared. The judges stood up one after another and looked around with surprise in their eyes. This phenomenon was so strange. Could it be that someone had activated some sort of terrifying, profound skill? Creak. At this moment, strange noises came from all directions of the arena. Everyone anxiously looked over, only to see a strange light blue light wall appear around the ring, and it was gently swaying. Is this a shield? Xiao Ziru exclaimed. To prevent a participant's moves from being too destructive, it's used to isolate profound techniques and protect the audience. Lu Gu asked in astonishment. Not bad. Xiao Ziru nodded her head seriously. It is this barrier. Normally speaking, this barrier is in a completely invisible state. It is extremely difficult for it to appear. If it does, there's only one reason. What reason? It is facing or is about to face a profound skill that can pose a great threat to it. Xiao Ziru said coldly. The barrier's current state is also a warning, warning everyone that a participant is about to unleash a powerful killing technique. Killing move. The four of them were shocked. According to the rules of the competition, if a contestant wanted to use a killer move, the four judges had to go on stage to stop it. But at this moment, no one had the thought of stopping him. Judging from the standard of the two contestants on the stage, they had no confidence in taking it on. Do we need to take any protective measures? Lu Guifeng asked. What's there to do? Two existences that were not even at the 5th grade of Spirit Master. Could it be that they could overturn the heavens? Everyone might not know this, but this protective barrier was personally set up by a 7th grade Spirit Master expert invited by the organizers of the competition. An ordinary person would not be able to cause any damage to it. Zhonghua Hao Vao. Oh, 7th grade of Spirit Master? Xiao Ziru looked at him and asked. If that's the case, then why is the barrier reacting like that? This, however, before Zhang Guahao could explain, there was already a new change on the stage. Su Yun brandished the scarlet blood sword in his hand again. While twisting his steps, he dodged the light sword shooting down from the sky, and at the same time he used his sword to block Li Changzai's fast swords. His body still did not exude any aura. However, his sword gradually released a sharp and cold aura. The aura became denser and denser as he brandished his sword. Su Yun's body did not reveal any profound spirit qi, but the profound spirit qi on his sword became even more ferocious, as though he had gathered all the profound spirit qi in his body into the sword in his hand. His movements were extremely natural, as though they were made by nature, like moving clouds and flowing water. Regardless of whether it was dodging or blocking, they were all perfect. Li Changzai's torrential attacks seemed to be hitting thin air. They were unable to touch Su Yun at all. At that moment, Su Yun's speed increased once again. Li Changzai did not know how much Su Yun's speed had increased by. He only felt that Su Yun was like a dream. He was completely unable to touch him. It was as though Su Yun knew all of his moves, knew all of his attack trajectories, and no matter how ferociously he slashed, he was unable to do so. What realm is this? Li Changzai panicked in his mind. I have even taken out my natal treasure, but I am unable to harm him at all. How strong is he? Could it be? Am I going to lose to Su Yun today? Li Changzai muttered. No, never. I will never admit defeat. Li Changzai calmed down, his eyes filled with unwillingness. At that moment, he had already thrown away everything. If he did not defeat Su Yun, he would not rest. Li Changzai released a roar. The sword in his hand suddenly increased in speed by 3 times. The frequency at which he was brandishing his sword had long reached 1,000 swords per second. Although he did not imbue any spirit qi into his sword, but the power of every sword was extremely astonishing. The current Li Changzai was someone that even an official participant would not be able to defeat. The sudden increase in speed seemed to be something that Su Yun was unable to adapt to. His hand that was holding onto the sword became strenuous. His movements became messy and panicked. Suddenly, Li Changzai, whose eyes were almost completely red, caught onto Su Yun's flaw. He secretly took a deep breath and changed the trajectory of his sword, causing the sword that was originally aimed at Su Yun's shoulder to move a few centimeters to the left. Clang! The 2 swords clashed. Li Changzai's sword directly slashed onto the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword's hilt. Seeing that, Li Changzai's expression became even more sinister. His eyes filled with an unconcealable light aura. Su Yun, you've lost. He roared out and suddenly exerted strength. Grabbing onto the sword hilt, he threw the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword in Su Yun's hand into the sky. So, the blood-red sword flew into the sky and spun a few rounds in the air before landing on the ground. At that moment, Su Yun's hands were empty. If a swordsman lost his sword, could he still be called a swordsman? Could he still be a threat? The answer was obviously no. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Li Changzai's eyes flashed with a stern look. He suddenly got closer to Su Yun, releasing a large number of sword images that flew towards Su Yun. At that moment, he wanted to use his most ferocious technique to decide the victor of the battle. Victory or defeat depended on this move. Sword devouring the heavens. He roared out. It was Li Changzai's famed consummate technique, and the reason why he was called the Swift Sword. Wantonly slashing with his sword, the sword images covered the sky. No one could block it. No one could defend against it. The entire sky was filled with sword images. It was extremely terrifying. With a roar, the spectators were all startled, all of them staring at Li Changzai. The victor is about to be decided. But right at that moment when the roar came out, crack! The protective barrier around the competition grounds instantly shattered. Following that, a loud shout came out. Single sword, rising wind. In that moment, the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword that had just dropped to the ground suddenly transformed into a red light and flew towards Su Yun's hand. He stepped forward and swung his arm forward. The sword blade did not blossom with a myriad of colors. The sword tip did not release any dazzling colors, nor did it have an imposing aura that could swallow mountains and rivers. But right at that moment when the sword was swung out, the weather changed, a berserk gale howled, a large amount of pitch-black blade like wind blew into the competition stage. The protective barrier was instantly shattered by the blade and sword wind. Li Changzai, who was frantically brandishing his sword, immediately stopped in his tracks and froze. Roar! Raging wind roar! The sky was dark, and the dense black clouds were descending. The entire audience could not help but feel a suffocating feeling, and some of the weaker ones were even more pale, finding it hard to breathe. Only Su Yun stood straight, without any discomfort. What happened? The same thought popped up in everyone's mind at the same time. Seeing that Li Changzai had stopped moving, he flipped the scarlet blood sword and smoothly sheathed it. He stopped the spirit chi and released the single sword rising wind. The protective barrier was completely destroyed. Not only that, the entire stage was smashed into smithereens. Su Yun did not fully unleash his single sword rising wind. Since there were too many people present, it was better to hold back. Furthermore, dealing with Li Changzai was not like dealing with Feng Mo Chong and the other experts. It was more than enough. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just then, the blood-red sword in Li Changzai's hand shattered, transforming into a pool of blood-red liquid that fell to the ground. Oh! Li Changzai anxiously held on to his chest. He spat out a large amount of blood. He retreated a few steps back, his body swaying. He saw it. Su Yun's attack did not attack his body, but struck the sword in his hand. With the sword shattered, he would definitely lose. Using his own life as the source to refine a sword, Li Changzai had already infused all of his power into it. With the sword destroyed, he had no hope of winning. The victor was decided. Powerful! Li Changzai leaned on a piece of rock at the side of the stage. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said weakly, Su Yun is truly powerful to be able to unleash such a heaven-shaking sword. Truly powerful. I, Li Changzai, have lost to you wholeheartedly. Su Yun did not say anything. He held onto the broken sword hilt and stood up with difficulty. Can you tell me the name of that sword? He asked with anticipation in his eyes. Single sword rising wind. Su Yun calmly said the 4 words. Single sword rising wind. Hearing that, Li Changzai muttered. He thought back to the heaven-shaking sword that he had just experienced, his eyes revealing deep shock. Single sword rising wind. Single sword rising wind. He turned and staggered. He swayed as he walked down the stage step by step and walked out of the competition grounds. After today, Li Changzai would no longer be a fast sword. The treasure that he had unleashed with his life as the source was destroyed, his talent and cultivation would be greatly affected, and his life as a genius would never return. No one understood why Li Changzai would do such a thing. Maybe only he knew. Countless people felt pity for him and sighed. But he had never regretted it. Su Yun quietly watched as Li Changzai walked towards the door, and for some reason, a ripple appeared in his heart. This battle would never be erased from his heart. Plop! Right at this time, Li Changzai, who was swaying forward, suddenly fell to the ground and fainted. Chapter 447. Li Changzai was carried down. A few of the spectators and participants were still staring at him, causing the atmosphere to become even more intense. What is he persevering for? No one knew, but it was clear that he was the most dazzling new star in the competition. The stage was completely destroyed. Even the erase seal below was damaged and could no longer be repaired. Furthermore, the protective barrier that protected the spectators was also destroyed by Su Yun's sword. It was obviously impossible to continue the competition, so there was a need for a good stage. The organizers of the competition immediately summoned a few almighty beings to use their secret techniques to restore the competition grounds. It required some time, and the competition entered a special rest period. Li Changzai was eliminated, leaving only one participant in Group A. Group D had one participant, and the remaining 2 participants were the officials, Huo Quan Kai and Qin Si. At this point, the competition was nearing its end. But the remaining 4 participants were the most eye-catching existences in the competition. Just 2 more rounds, and it will be over. Su Yun returned to his participant's seat and closed his eyes, quietly recuperating. Lu Zhanyuan, who was by the side, was chattering nonstop. He was completely convinced by Su Yun's sword techniques and was just short of kneeling in front of Su Yun to become his disciple. All of the participants were pointing at Su Yun and discussing among themselves. A participant from Group D defeated all the participants from Group A one after another and entered the top 4. How shocking is his battle record? Is he truly a participant from Group D? How'd he end up in Group D? Countless people were curious about this, and even more people started to question if there was a problem with the official grouping system. Such an outstanding person, it would be reasonable for him to be in Group B, but to be placed in Group D, that is too ridiculous. Excuse me, are you young noble Su? Just then, a voice came out from the walkway. Su Yun opened his eyes and turned to see a man dressed in black and red robes bowing and cupping his fists towards him. He had a smile on his face and a symbol on his chest. It was the symbol of the New Deer Auction House. Who are you? Su Yun asked. Oh, this lowly one is from the New Deer Auction House. Young noble Su is brave and undefeatable. With a single sword, you have defeated countless heroes. My old master admires young noble. If young noble does not mind, can you come to the pavilion after the competition and meet with my old master? The man said respectfully. Your master? My old master is the president of New Deer Auction House. The man's voice was filled with pride. Guild leader. Before waiting for Su Yun to speak, Lu Zhanyuan, who was by the side, anxiously patted Su Yun's shoulder and said, Brother Su, it's a matter of luck. It's a matter of luck. The president of New Deer Auction House must have taken a liking to your talent and strength and is planning to recruit you to groom you. This is definitely a matter of luck, with an organization grooming you. The cultivation coins and treasures will be endless, and your cultivation will soar crazily. Brother Su, you hit the jackpot today. Lu Zhanyuan was extremely excited, as though he was the one being recruited. However, what he said was indeed true. It was indeed a rogue cultivator's fortune to be chosen by a large chamber of commerce. But the moment he agreed, it would mean that he had sold himself to the other party. Since he was being groomed by the other party, he had to listen to them and do anything for them. The main reason for him to participate in the New Deer competition was to raise his fighting strength, so that he could go to the Emperor Palace in the future. Once he was hooked to the New Deer Auction House, it would be difficult for him to escape. Furthermore, the New Deer Auction House was fighting with the other 3 organizations, so it was best not to get involved in it. If he offended the other 3 organizations, it would be troublesome. Su Yun scratched his chin and thought for a moment, then said, The competition is not over yet. I, Su Yun, do not know if I can come out unscathed. How about this? You go back first and thank the president for me, and tell him to put this matter aside for now, and wait for the competition to end before we talk about it. How about that? Young noble Su, is right, since it's like that. This lowly one will take his leave first. The man did not speak further. He bowed and left. Seeing that, Lu Zhanyuan looked at Su Yun as though he was looking at a monster. Such a good thing, yet he did not immediately agree. If it were Lu Zhanyuan, he would have long followed the man to meet the president of New Deer Auction House. Just then, 2 dense spirit chi suddenly drifted in from outside the competition grounds. All of the spirit cultivators present could sense the powerful and terrifying spirit chi. A few of them anxiously raised their heads to look towards the direction of the spirit chi, only to see 2 figures flying over from the distance. The 2 of them were dressed in rainbow robes and were extremely conspicuous. One was a male and the other was a female. Both of them looked to be in their 40s, one wielding a sword while the other wielding a staff. Both of them were extremely powerful. And on their chests, there was the same symbol. The symbol of New Deer Auction House. Almighty Being. He seems to be the Almighty Being from New Deer Auction House. That is Master Yu Xiao and his wife, Yu Tu Shan. Why are they here? And they even flew in like that? Don't they know that New Deer City forbids flying? Everyone started to discuss. The 2 of them rushed into the competition grounds and directly landed in the center of the stage. One of the men, Yu Xiao, extended his hand out and took out a snow-white square stone and activated his spirit chi. The snow-white stone cracked open from the middle like a blossoming flower. The broken pieces fell in all directions, and a slender grayish-white ray gushed out from the crack. The ray shot into the air and split apart, forming a spider web that covered the ground. Following the descent of the strange spider web, its surface layers started to melt and secrete a large amount of liquid. When the spider web completely melted, the liquid congealed and finally formed a gigantic and unique snow-white square stage. After the two of them finished, they cupped their fists towards New Deer Auction House's pavilion, and without saying a word, they turned and walked towards the big door. One of the New Deer Auction House's people walked to Zhu Wen sighed and whispered a few words into his ears. Zhu Wen revealed a look of enlightenment. He nodded his head and then ran towards the gigantic snow-white square stage. He climbed up the stage and used his spirit chi to urge his throat to shout, ladies and gentlemen, you do not need to be surprised. The two great masters were actually invited by our New Deer Auction House because the stage was destroyed and the protective barrier was broken. We are unable to repair it in a short period of time. Thus, they were invited by our New Deer Auction House to construct a new stage. That's right, the gigantic stage that you're looking at is the Snow Jade Space sponsored by New Deer Auction House. The following competition will be held in this space. Snow Jade Space? The spectators were startled, and after a moment, they started to discuss amongst themselves. The Snow Jade Space is a mystical treasure that New Deer Auction House has recently obtained. Its original use is for spirit cultivators to train, but it is extremely suitable to be used as a competition stage. After the participants enter the Snow Jade Space, they will obtain a double spirit chi recovery effect. But the Snow Jade Space will have a large amount of vile weather, terrifying traps, and terrifying beasts that will exhaust the participants' spirit chi. Not only will the participants have to face their own opponents, they will also have to face the test of the Snow Jade Space. Zhu Wen shouted exaggeratedly. Then everyone, are you guys ready? Are we going to let the participants go up? Go, go, go. The spectators shouted out excitedly, their waves of voices announcing their anticipation towards the Snow Jade Space. Seeing that, Zhu Wen did not say anything. He directly raised his fat finger towards the screen in the air. In that moment, the screen started to move. Two names appeared at the top of the screen. Everyone anxiously took a look. Quan Kai against Qin Si. Another official representative against another official representative. The entire place exploded into an uproar. Su Yin looked at the screen and could not help but look towards Han Yu Xan, who was in the Group A region. Since Quan Kai and Qin Si were going up against each other, then without question, the next match would be between Su Yun and Han Yu Xan. Brother Su, do your best. Although Miss Han Yu Xan is powerful, I believe that you will definitely win. Lu Zhan Yuan said softly. Really? Su Yin turned to look at him. Of course. Lu Zhan Yuan puffed out his chest and said with a serious look. All right, then go and bet 500,000 cultivation coins on me winning. About that. Lu Zhan Yuan's face immediately turned red. In the previous few matches, he saw that Su Yun had earned a lot, so he followed Su Yun's bet, and now he had a few 100,000 cultivation coins. But for the next match, he was not as confident as before, because his opponent this time was the number 1 cold sword, Han Yu Xan. Her strength was not inferior to the official representative. Seeing that Lu Zhan Yuan was hesitating, Su Yin shook his head, then took out his cultivation coin card and handed it over to Xiao Xiao. Go and bet on me winning later. Yes, young noble. Xiao Xiao laughed and bowed. Seeing that, Lu Zhan Yuan's face turned white and red. Perspiration started to form on his forehead, as though he was struggling with his thoughts. After a long while, he took out 100,000 cultivation coins spirit card and stammered, "Then buy 100,000 for this young noble." Xiao Xiao nodded her head and took the cultivation coin card. Lu Zhan Yuan seemed to be unwilling. He stared at the cultivation coin card in Xiao Xiao's hand for a long while, then retracted his gaze. Seeing that, Su Yin did not know whether to laugh or cry. Clang! Just then, the competition began. Qin Si and Quan Kai entered the Snow Jade Space at the same time. Upon seeing each other, without saying a word, they immediately started fighting. Colorful mystical techniques continuously exploded out in the snow-white space. The scene was extremely intense. Su Yun stared intently. He wanted to see what was so special about the mystical Snow Jade Space. But right at that moment, his shoulder was suddenly patted a few times. Su Yun turned to look at the person behind him. Unknowingly, there was a man dressed in colorful embroidered robes standing behind him. He had a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks. He was extremely skinny with a mole at the corner of his mouth and eyes the size of beans. At that moment, he was smiling at Su Yun. He did not greet him, nor did he reveal any expression of respect. Who is he? After the people from New Deer Auction House came, could it be that the people from the other trading organizations are here to look for me? Su Yun thought, then spoke up. Who are you? Me? The man crossed his arms and laughed. Who I am is not important. What is important is that my young noble wants me to bring you a message, Su Yun. Su Yun frowned. What message? The man's eyes revealed a smile. He moved closer to Su Yun's ears and said softly, You are not allowed to win. Miss Han Uxin. Chapter 448. Not allowed to win against Han Uxin? Su Yun frowned. He stared at the man with a burning gaze. Who is your young master? Someone you cannot afford to offend. The man did not say anything else. He chuckled and patted Su Yun's shoulder again, revealing a playful smile. He turned and left. Su Yun stared at his back view, only to see him walk past the corridor and arrive at an exquisite private room at the end. He cupped his fists and bowed, then walked in. The room was extremely luxurious. There were 2 servants standing guard at the door. There was an array formation on the door. The key to the array formation had already been taken by the guest inside. Other than the guest, no one else could open the door. It was a private room specially used by the organizers to entertain the esteemed guests. Brother Su, what's wrong? Lu Zhanyuan, who was by the side, looked at him suspiciously. Zhanyuan, do you know who is in that room? Su Yun pointed to the door at the end of the corridor and asked. That one? I did not know who it is exactly, but I heard a few of the participants from New Deer City talking before, saying that it is an esteemed guest invited by the city lord of New Deer City. His identity is extremely high, and ordinary people do not dare to provoke him. Brother Su, could it be that the esteemed guest has the intention to recruit you? Lu Zhanyuan laughed. You truly are a popular person. Everyone likes you, hee hee. You're wrong this time. Su Yun laughed bitterly. The popular person this time should be Han Uxin. Hearing that, Lu Zhanyuan was perplexed. What do you mean? Su Yun shook his head. He did not say anything and continued to look at the center of the snow jade space. Qin Si and Huoquan Kai were representatives of the officials. Their talents were extremely high, and their cultivations were many times higher than those of the same age. Not to mention those of the same age, even in a big city like New Deer City, they were the cream of the crop. The 2 of them were made up of treasures by the organization. All of them were high-grade treasures, at least of the same grade, and most likely, they even had imperial equipment. The way the 2 of them fought was extremely beautiful, their mystical techniques complementing their treasures, creating an unimaginable might. But Su Yun did not focus on their fighting style. They were already used to using treasures and mystical techniques to fight, and such methods were not suitable for lone cultivators. What I should be watching now is the mystical snow jade space. When the contestants entered the space, a bone-chilling wind immediately blew in the space. Snow began to fall and was carried by the wind. The wind was not an ordinary wind. This wind could easily cut open a person's skin and flesh. The snow was not ordinary either. When the snow covered a person's body, it could prevent the Xian Qi from leaking out. Not only did he have to find a way to defeat his opponent, but he also had to be on guard against the adverse conditions. Of course, if it was just that, New Deer Auction House would not have used the treasure as a competition stage. During the battle, there would be a flash of white light from time to time. After the light dissipated, a 3rd-grade spirit master vicious beast, the white-haired ape sage, would rush out. The white-furred ape sage's destructive power wasn't very strong, but its most frightening aspect was its ability to control wind and snow. Furthermore, it targeted the nearest contestant, and it would be troublesome if they were caught in it. The white-furred ape sage suddenly appeared beside Qin Si. It extended out its gigantic fist and fiercely pounded its chest, then opened its mouth and started to inhale. In that moment, all of the wind and snow in the snow jade space was sucked into its mouth. The wind and snow stopped. Following that, the white-furred ape sage spat at Qin, causing the wind and snow to transform into a snow dragon that struck towards Qin. Seeing that, Huaquan Kai immediately grabbed onto the opportunity and increased his offense, causing him to be unable to care about the white-furred ape sage's attack. Whoosh! Qin was caught off guard and was instantly struck by the wind and snow, turning him into ice. Good. Huaquan Kai chuckled. The fan in his hand opened up, and the back of the fan transformed into a blade that fiercely slashed towards Qin's neck. It was a technique that could kill. However, the battles between the participants of the trading organizations were all fought to the death. Not to mention the judges, even the spectators were used to it. Crack! Qin, who had been turned into an ice sculpture, was immediately beheaded by the technique. But when the head landed on the ground, the ice sculpture shattered and turned into dust. Illusion. Huaquan Kai's eyes tensed up. Just then, he suddenly received an attack from behind and was flung back towards the direction of the white-furred ape sage. Unknowingly, Qin had actually circled behind Huaquan Kai. It was an extremely ingenious counterattack. Seeing that, the spectators all cheered out in excitement. The participants were all cheering in their hearts, all of them cheering for Qin's beautiful counterattack. The white-furred ape sage immediately locked onto Huaquan Kai, who was the closest to him. He opened his mouth again and sucked in the wind and snow, then spat it out. Huaquan Kai's face tensed up. He immediately took out his defensive treasure, and in that moment, a layer of thick black armor appeared on his body. It was like a sheet of metal that wrapped around him tightly. With the wind and snow on his body, Huaquan Kai was unable to move, so Qin took the opportunity to attack. He raised his hand and unleashed 18 palm strikes at Huaquan Kai. Each of his palm strikes shook the heavens and earth. They were extremely terrifying, causing the ice and snow on Huaquan Kai's body to immediately scatter, and the metal sheet that covered his body had many dents. Huaquan Kai's face was pale white. He spat out blood. He was already at a disadvantage. Huaquan Kai, you can do it. Qin, kill him in one move. Quickly go. Kill him. The entire place was in an uproar. Huaquan Kai was forced into a corner and was being pincered by the white-furred ape sage and Qin. He clenched his teeth and stared fiercely at Qin. He no longer held back. He roared and unleashed his famed consummate technique. Heavenly Fan Dance. With that said, Huaquan Kai's entire body erupted with a powerful qi wave. The qi wave was like a gigantic hand, pushing the man and ape in front of him away. Huaquan Kai was out of danger, but he was not anxious to escape. Instead, he held onto the fan in his hand tightly, his eyes staring at the tip of the fan. His hand was like a golden snake, gently swaying. The fan swayed gently, releasing a bit of profound spirit force. Suddenly, Huaquan Kai's arms straightened. His expression became distorted, as though he had activated all of his strength. He lifted the fan up into the sky. Whoosh! The thick clouds in the sky split apart, and a gigantic fan of light descended down, smashing in front of Huaquan Kai. The fan of light was over 10 m tall and 100 m wide. It seemed as though it was about to extend out of the snow jade space, as though it was a gigantic blade that was about to slash the stage apart. Huaquan Kai's eyes lit up. His hands were enveloped in a circle of blue light. He began to move his legs, taking a serious and vigorous dance stance. The fan in his hand swayed along with him. When he moved, the gigantic fan of light swayed as well. Huaquan Kai waved it. The gigantic fan of light slashed towards Qin. Seeing that, Qin anxiously dodged. Boom! The entire competition ground started to shake. The snow jade space was like a small boat in a storm. It kept on swaying. The place where the fan of light had struck had a deep ravine, and a large amount of destructive power exploded out from the ravine, causing the white-haired ape sage, who was the closest to Huaquan Kai, to be instantly sent flying. What a terrifying destructive power. If it were to strike a person, they would definitely die. At least with the current standards of the participants, no one would be able to receive it. Qin frowned. His eyes focused on the fan in Huaquan Kai's hands. He snorted and rushed forward. Seeing his actions, it seemed as though he was prepared to attack the fan in Hua Quan Kai's hands first. But Qin Si was extremely accurate. His reaction was extremely fast. The destructive power of the fan of light was truly controlled by the fan in Hua Quan Kai's hands. But there was one thing that Qin Si did not understand, and that was that the fan in Hua Quan Kai's hands was not easy to snatch. Hua Quan Kai's footwork was ingenious, steady, and agile. When Qin Si got close, he turned and floated to the edge of the snow jade space, instantly pulling apart the distance between them. What an exquisite footwork! What an astonishing attack! Hua Quan Kai's heavenly fan dance is truly extraordinary. I never thought that a man would be able to dance so elegantly. It is truly pleasing to the eyes. Lu Gu, who was below the stage, could not help but praise. That's right, he is truly an official participant. I am afraid that even I cannot win against Hua Quan Kai. Zhang Guohao said. Everyone nodded their heads. In a battle of such a level, they could only be spectators. It will not be easy for Qin Si to win this battle. Wuyi City. It was a famous commercial city in the ultimate martial world. Inside, there were many commercial families with countless powerful martial artists stationed in the city. And inside Wuyi City, the Huairou family was the most famous and most powerful. In the center of Wuyi City, inside the Huairou residence, in front of an embroidered pavilion made entirely of gold and jade, a servant dressed in green with a head ornament of a virgin ran towards the door. Young miss, young miss. The servant approached the door and shouted excitedly. There's news of young noble. There's news of young noble. Young miss. Oh, so fast. An indifferent and gentle voice came out from the embroidered pavilion. Following that, the large door that was embedded with resplendent gems was gently pushed open, and a young lady dressed in a pink and yellow dress walked out. The maidservant's face was full of smiles as she hurriedly handed over a piece of jade in her hand. The young lady took the jade and extended her slender finger to tap on it, causing a bit of profound spirit chi to leak out. Following that, the jade released a light aura that flickered with rows of words. Oh, Su Yun is in New Deer City, and he is participating in the competition in New Deer City? Huairou Muyu blinked her eyes and started to ponder. With young noble Su's strength, he will definitely obtain the championship. The servant laughed. Huairou Muyu gently shook her head and said, Su Yun's strength is truly not bad, but the competition is a wild competition organized by a few trading organizations. It is not considered official. There will definitely be official participants. All of them have astonishing strength, and with the support of the trading organizations, they are all filled with powerful treasures. Su Yun will most likely be able to enter the finals, but to obtain the championship, I am afraid it will be difficult. Teach, that's not bad either, since he will be at the front. The servant scratched her head and said, What makes me curious is, why did he come to New Deer City to participate in the competition? Could it be that he is doing it for the prize for the champion? Or is he lacking money? Maybe he just wants to spar with an expert. The servant giggled. She suddenly thought of something and anxiously said, That's right, young miss. The servant who went to scout for information said that young noble Su was placed in Group D, but he has already interacted with a few participants from Group A and B, but something happened midway. Young noble Su's current situation is not looking good. Not looking good? Huairou Muyu frowned. What happened? It's about the Quick Blade sect. It is said that young noble Su accidentally killed a disciple of the Quick Blade sect, Dao Huang. The Quick Blade sect is an extremely protective sect, and this Dao Huang is the daughter of the Quick Blade sect leader. I am afraid that after the competition ends, the Quick Blade sect people will find young noble Su for revenge. Young noble Su will most likely be in danger. The servant girl said, Quick Blade sect? Huairou Muyu's eyes drooped as she muttered. Chapter 449. Boom. The gigantic light fan slashed down. The ground trembled again. Qin Si dodged anxiously, looking extremely miserable. Looking at the snow jade space again, it was filled with scars from the fan. The ground had many ravines. It was extremely terrifying. But what made people feel strange was that the snow jade space that was destroyed by the light fan was actually slowly recovering. It was as though the snow jade space was alive and had the ability to regenerate. At that moment, Qin Si and Hua Quan Kai did not have the time to care about the battlefield. One was frantically slashing while the other was frantically dodging. Finally, Qin Si was forced to the edge. If he dodged to the right, he would reach the spatial barrier, which he could not cross. "It's over," Hua Quan Kai bellowed. He swung his fan horizontally and slashed forward. The gigantic light fan immediately reacted. It flipped in the air. The fan was a meter above the ground and swept forward. It had an aura that could devour mountains and rivers. Facing this technique, Qin Si had nowhere to run. But in that moment of imminent peril, Qin Si calmly took out a purple bell. He stared at the incoming fan with a calm expression. He did not panic at all. When the fan was about to reach him, and the swift wind spirit chi from the fan blew onto his body, Qin Si shook the bell. Whoosh! The bell released a circle of blue light that instantly engulfed Qin Si. Qin Si had disappeared. What? Seeing that, the spectators were all shocked. Hua Quan Kai revealed a look of shock as he stared at the place where Qin Si had disappeared. The light fan slashed down. The white-haired ape sage was unable to dodge in time and was instantly sliced into two, blood splattering all over the snow jade space. Hua Quan Kai frowned. He stopped his movements and stared at the other side. Just then, the place where Qin Si had disappeared started to ripple again. The blue light appeared again, and inside the light, Qin Si's figure was revealed. "This is a special space." Hua Quan Kai seemed to have thought of something and asked in shock, "You actually have a spatial treasure? Could it be that you are hiding inside a spatial treasure?" "That's right," Qin Si said coldly. "With this, all of your killing techniques are useless against me. Hua Quan Kai, you have continuously used your famous consummate technique. I believe that the spirit chi in your body should have been exhausted by now, right? Then it is my turn now." With that said, Qin Si's figure flickered. His speed increased as he rushed towards Hua Quan Kai. Hearing that, Hua Quan Kai's heart tensed up. He immediately waved his fan at Qin Si again. But it was as Qin Si had said, Hua Quan Kai did not have much profound spirit force left in his body, and when he unleashed this technique, although it was powerful and destructive, its speed was slow. Qin Si shook the bell and hid inside the spatial treasure, dodging the light fan. He then rushed out again like a ghost, appearing and disappearing. When he got close to Hua Quan Kai, he immediately activated his profound spirit chi. Using his hand as a blade, he slashed towards Hua Quan Kai's neck. Seeing that, Hua Quan Kai immediately activated his defensive treasure, protecting his neck, and his neck was instantly covered with black metal. Crash! Qin Si's hand blade slashed towards Hua Quan Kai, but did not hit the black metal. Instead, like a mist, it directly pierced through Hua Quan Kai's neck and dissipated. Seeing that, Hua Quan Kai's pupils dilated, his heart almost stopped beating. Illusion. Pucci. A heart-wrenching pain came from Hua Quan Kai's arm. Ah! He released a painful roar. He looked down at his arm, only to see that the hand that was holding onto the fan had been chopped off. The fan in his hand dropped to the ground. Qin Si took the opportunity to attack, his leg filled with dense and terrifying spirit chi. He kicked towards Hua Quan Kai's chest. The spirit chi struck his chest from the sole of his foot, causing Hua Quan Kai's internal organs to be in turmoil. Many of them were broken. His face turned pale white. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew to the edge of the space. The victor was about to be decided. Such a huge change caused everyone to be shocked speechless. Powerful. Using an illusion to deceive Hua Quan Kai, making him think that his goal was to attack his vitals. But in truth, his true goal was Hua Quan Kai's hand. Hua Quan Kai had exhausted a lot of his spirit chi. If he were to be crippled again, his fighting strength would be greatly affected, and he would definitely not be Qin Si's opponent. Qin Si will definitely win. Suyin thought. Hua Quan Kai was powerful, but in terms of scheming, he could not compare to Qin Si. To an existence who was a spirit master cultivator, Using an illusion or concealing his hand was not a difficult task. It could only be considered a small trick, but to be able to use such a trick at such a crucial moment, everyone could not help but admire his audacity and ingenuity. If it were anyone else, they would not have used such a trick. They would have directly slashed at Huo Kai's neck and killed him first. Since it was an extremely rare opportunity, if they missed it, it would be gone forever. With his hand chopped off, the spirit chi was disconnected, and the gigantic fan of light in the center of the snow jade space disappeared. Qin Si's hands were filled with sharp spirit chi. His expression was cold as he walked towards Huo Kai. Boom! A spirit chi struck Huo Kai's left shoulder, causing it to immediately explode. Half of his chest was blasted apart. Blood splattered everywhere. His internal organs were damaged. He was already on the verge of death. If not for the spirit chi that had yet to dissipate, Huo Kai would have died long ago. According to the rules of the competition should have ended. But Zhu did not dare speak, because Huo Kai, who represented the Huawei Chamber of Commerce, did not speak. Suyin stared at Qin Si's cold eyes and frowned. Qin Si's eyes did not have any emotions, and his methods were extremely ruthless. Without any worries, he was most likely prepared to kill Qin Si. Inside the pavilion of the Huawei Chamber of Commerce. President, if we do not stop him, I am afraid that Huo Kai will die on the stage. A man dressed in purple armor cupped his fists and spoke to the blurry figure behind the pearl curtain. He's just a piece of trash. Why did you save him? Is it a waste of cultivation coins? The blurry figure spoke out coldly. The purple-armored man was speechless for a moment. He cupped his fists and did not speak. The silence in the pavilion naturally caught Huo Kai's attention. In truth, he had always understood the relationship between him and the Huawei Chamber of Commerce. In his eyes, the Huawei Chamber of Commerce was a wealthy person that gave him a large amount of treasures and cultivation coins, an existence that he could use, but in the eyes of the Huawei Chamber of Commerce, he was just a chess piece that could be thrown away at any time. They are truly heartless. Huo Kai's mouth revealed a bitter smile. He looked at the pavilion, then turned to Qin Si, who was standing in front of him. Qin Si's eyes were ice cold, his pupils revealing killing intent. Huo Kai knew that he could not escape from this calamity. He took a deep breath, then slowly closed his eyes and did not say a word. Qin Si was also happy. He gathered his profound spirit chi, transformed it into a blade, and slashed horizontally. Puchi! Huo Kai's head flew into the air. The execution lessened Huo Kai's pain. Blood splattered, and the competition ended. Huo Kai's broken body fell into the ice-cold snow jade space. No one was there to collect his corpse, and even when his soul leaked out, no one was there to protect him. Feng Lingsheng's death was all because of the treasure that his family had passed down to him to protect his soul. But Huo Kai did not have such a treasure. His soul was scattered everywhere, and in the end, he would be absorbed by a spirit cultivator or a spirit beast, and die. The entire place was silent. It was not the first time the spectators had seen a participant being killed on the stage, but every time they saw it, it would give them a shocking feeling. Silence, it was eerily quiet. After an unknown period of time, there was finally a sound. I hereby announce, the winner of this round is participant Qin Si from Yushuang Auction House. Zhu went up on stage and shouted with a trembling voice. Of course, there were not many cheers. Such an outcome was something that many people could not accept. Out of the 4 representatives, only one was left. There were only 3 contestants left in this match. Su Yun, Hanyu Xin, and Qin Si. Qin Si and Huo Kai had fought an intense battle, and the competition authorities would definitely not allow him to fight again. That also meant that the participants for the competition had already been decided. Su Yun took a deep breath, stood up, and walked toward the walkway. At that moment, Hanyu Xin, who was dressed in a blue gown, also stood up. She looked at Su Yun. Then, with light and steady steps, she stepped into the snow jade space. Su Yun stepped into the space and felt a bone-chilling cold assaulting him. The wind was like blades, causing his entire body to feel a burning sensation, and his bones seemed to be trembling. And when the snow fell onto his body, It was like a rock blocking his spirit essences, and he was unable to release any spirit chi. To fight in such a harsh environment, the difficulty could be imagined. Hua Quan Kai's blood on the ground had not dried yet. Su Yin pulled out his scarlet blood sword and looked at Han Yu Xin. The fighting intent in her eyes was extremely dense, as though she was a person who loved to fight. Against such a person, Su Yin knew that it would be difficult for him to gain the upper hand, and the only way was to contend with her and cause her mental state to become chaotic. Su Yin, please do not hold back. Use your full strength, because I will also use my full strength to defeat you. I hope that this round will be exciting and exciting. Han Yu Xin raised the blue sword in her hand and pointed it at Su Yin. As you wish. Su Yin nodded his head. Dong, the melodious bell sound came out. It signified the start of the competition. Han Yu Xin extended her slender fingers out and placed it on the blue sword's blade, causing the sword to immediately release a large amount of cold chi, which resonated with the cold chi in the snow jade space. Suddenly, Su Yun's expression changed. He realized that something was amiss. The wind and snow inside the snow jade space were actually useless against Han Yu Xin. The wind and snow seemed to be alive. When they were about to touch Han Yu Xin's body, they would actually change direction and go around her body to blow behind her. What's going on? Could Han Yu Xin be able to control the wind and snow inside the snow jade space? If that's the case, then the difficulty of defeating Han Yu Xin will be even greater. Su Yin held onto the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword tightly, his eyes congealing. Are you ready? Su Yin, I'm going to start. Han Yu Xin said coldly. Who cares? Su Yin exhaled and nodded his head. Come. With that said, Han Yu Xin suddenly held onto her sword and stabbed it into the ground. Crack, 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 crack. The ground immediately split open, and a large number of sparkling and translucent ice pillars shot out from the cracks towards Su Yin. It was an extremely powerful technique, but it was not a killing technique. Han Yu Xin was still Han Yu Xin. The wind and snow were extremely strong. She intended to use the 4m tall ice pillars to form a false wall to block the wind and snow, forming a convection, allowing the wind and snow to blow towards Su Yin. As long as there was enough wind and snow to disturb Su Yin, causing his fighting strength to drop, then winning the competition would be extremely easy. Chapter 450. Su Yin leaped back and retreated to the edge of the stage. Looking at the ice pillar that was gradually coming to a stop, he raised his finger and pointed forward. A black light flashed on his finger. Then, the sky darkened and the dark cloud swirled, forming a whirlpool. An incomparably huge black dragon sword fell from the sky. Cleaving the heavens, dragon slash. Su Yin, who was at the peak of the first grade of Spirit Master, activated the Cleaving the Heavens dragon sword slash to display even more power. The huge dragon sword whooshed downwards with an astonishing aura, as if a divine dragon had fallen to the mortal world and was roaring. Dong! The dragon sword fell to the ground, and the earth shook violently. But what was surprising was that the dragon sword did not land on Han Yu Xin, but on the tail of the icicle, perfectly blocking in front of Su Yin. The berserk wind and snow currents that were blowing along the icicle were immediately blocked by the gigantic dragon sword and flowed back to Han Yu Xin. This fellow, he is truly scheming to actually be able to tell that my move was not to attack him, but to use the wind and snow to attack him. I never expected him to return the favor. Han Yu Xin thought to herself. Her pupils congealed. She removed the icicles and raised her sword to rush forward. Nearing Su Yin, she twisted her body, like an ice butterfly dancing gracefully, but accompanying the ice butterfly was a cold and terrifying sword image. Han Yu Xion's sword was not fast. Maybe Shen Wei could not compare to her, but when compared to Li Changzai, she was much slower. Su Yun stared at the dazzling, dancing cold swords. He raised his scarlet blood sword and pierced through the middle of the swords, with the intention of directly defeating Han Yu Xin. But a scene that caused everyone to be startled appeared when the scarlet blood sword neared. Han Yu Xion's sword suddenly released a large amount of cold chi. The cold chi was extremely astonishing. instantly freezing the scarlet blood sword's blade, and the terrifying frigid aqua spirit chi flowed along the sword's blade and extended towards Su Yun's body. Hanyu Xian knew that her speed was inferior to mine, so she purposely used her sword technique in front of me to make me attack her, and then counterattack. This woman was so meticulous. Su Yun's heart trembled. He activated the monarch occult force, and his spirit essences released a large amount of true divine spirit force, instantly shattering the ice that covered his body. With a move of his arm, he forcefully broke through Hanyu Xian's ice power and fiercely stabbed towards her chest. True divine spirit chi? So you have cultivated this kind of aura. Hanyu Xian frowned. Su Yun used the sword, so the spirit chi he cultivated was mainly speed and sharpness. Most of it was swift wind spirit chi, just that a few of the mainstream spirit chi could counter each other. So people who cultivated true divine spirit chi were not suitable to cultivate swift wind spirit chi, and conversely, according to logic, Su Yun should not cultivate such spirit chi. Hanyu Xian's face turned cold. Her left middle finger and thumb gently curled up, congealing 7 layers of ice shields in front of her chest. The scarlet blood sword struck the ice shields, but was unable to break through them. Hanyu Xian took the chance to dance again, but she did not slash at Su Yun, but gradually pulled the distance between them and quickly brandished her sword. Her sword was like a glow stick in the night sky, swirling with a large number of dazzling ice flowers. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Ice flowers scattered in all directions, forming a strange ice barrier around her, causing a large amount of ice shards to form. Hanyu Xian's expression turned serious. She waved her sword at Su Yun. Ka! A gigantic ice blade flew out from the tip of her sword and fiercely slashed towards Su Yun. It was no ordinary ice blade. The ice inside was congealed from frigid aqua spirit chi. It was extremely sturdy and sharp, and on the surface of the ice blade, Hanyu Xian had imbued 3 layers of terrifying spirit chi, every layer of spirit chi containing astonishing destructive power. I can't take it head-on, otherwise, even if I do, I will be injured. Su Yun thought and immediately dodged. Boom! The ice blade smashed onto the light barrier of the snow jade space and exploded. What was even more terrifying was that after the ice blade exploded, it actually split into millions of tiny ice shards that shot out in all directions like bullets. Such a sudden scene caught Su Yun off guard. He immediately covered his entire body with true divine spirit chi, hardening his entire body. Ding, 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 a large amount of sparks shot out from Su Yun's body. The terrifying destructive spirit chi seemed to have engulfed him. Although the ice shards did not break through the defense formed by the true divine spirit chi, they left behind shallow marks on Su Yun's skin, showing how terrifying the destructive power was. But it was not over when the ice shards struck his body. They actually rebounded and struck onto the light barrier of the snow jade space, then returned and continued to attack Su Yun. The spectators outside could only see a large number of white shooting stars appearing inside the snow jade space, continuously flying around. If this continues, the strange ice shard will break through my defense. Su Yun bellowed. He once again activated the monarch occult force, transforming his own spirit chi into Scarlet Star spirit chi. He then brandished his sword, releasing close to 1,000 swords in a second. The blazing Scarlet Star spirit chi was like a ferocious beast's mouth that swallowed everything. See, the ice shards were devoured by the terrifying Scarlet Star spirit chi, turning into steam and dispersing. Scarlet Star spirit chi. Hanyu Xian's face revealed a look of astonishment. You primarily train in swift wind spirit chi and true divine spirit chi, and now you even train in Scarlet Star spirit chi? You train in 3 at the same time? Su Yun, aren't you afraid that your spirit chi will become chaotic and the spirit essences in your body will explode and die? Su Yun did not say anything. Hanyu Xian did not know that he had a treasure that could combine the attributes of spirit chi, allowing a person to use 5 main types of spirit chi at the same time. A treasure like the monarch occult force, even in the ultimate martial world, was a powerful treasure. Seeing that Su Yun did not say anything, Hanyu Xian frowned. She spun her body and casually swung the sword in her hand. Whoosh! A sparkling and translucent ripple spread out in all directions with her as the center. The speed of the ripple was extremely fast. Su Yun did not even have time to react and was struck by the ripple. But the ripple did not cause any damage. It struck his body like a spring breeze. Su Yun felt that something was amiss. If a state of being was released without any movement, then it was most likely a sign of a mystical technique. As expected, the frigid ice chi barrier that enveloped Hanyu Xian suddenly disappeared, and all the dazzling ice shards in front of Hanyu Xian converged in front of her. She held onto her sword with both hands and closed her eyes. Suddenly, a feminine voice came out as she swung her sword. 10,000 ice blades! Whoosh! The sword slashed onto the ice shards. Bang! The sword tip and the ice shards exploded, causing a large number of ice blades to explode out. Like rain, they flew toward Su Yun. There were over 100 ice blades. Previously, a single ice blade was able to produce so many ice shards. With so many ice blades shattering at the same time, the entire snow jade space would be invaded by the ice shards. Boom! 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 A few dozen ice blades flew towards Su Yun and devoured him. The ice blade shattered and released a large amount of ice mist, causing Su Yun's figure to disappear, while the ice blades that did not strike Su Yun all smashed onto the light screen, causing the ice blades to shatter, causing countless of ice shards to form, filling up the entire space. Clang! 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 The densely packed ice shards collided with each other in a frenzy. When the ice shards collided with each other, explosions occurred. The audience outside could see that the entire snow jade space was a vast expanse of whiteness. Furthermore, the sounds of explosions that were more concentrated than firecrackers and denser than raindrops hitting roof tiles could be heard. The dense and terrifying technique caused everyone's heart to jump and their scalps to go numb. So terrifying is this still a destructive power that a spirit master cultivator can produce. Xiao Ziru was dumbstruck. Hanyu Xian's technique had completely convinced her. This technique, I am afraid that even if the four of us work together, we would not be able to withstand it. Hanyu Xian's cultivation has long surpassed ours. I am afraid that the champion of the competition will definitely be her. Lu Gu said, "Will Su Yun survive? I am afraid that he will not even have any breath left. Is Su Yun going to die just like that? That is truly a pity." Luckily I bet on Hanyu Xian to win. I just heard that Su Yun had someone bet 1,000,000 cultivation coins on him. He is truly confident. Does he think that Hanyu Xian is one of those lowly participants? Isn't he screwed this time? He has no more cultivation coins, and even his life is gone. Who asked him to force Hanyu Xian into a corner? Hanyu Xian has disguised her own fighting strength. Who knows what cultivation she has, but I am afraid that she's extremely terrifying against Hanyu Xian. Su Yun will most likely lose. The spectators were all discussing. But even more people were immersed in Hanyu Xian's terrifying killing technique. Most likely, the 10,000 ice blades would leave an unforgettable memory in the hearts of countless people. Hanyu Xian stood inside the snow jade space. Like a snow lotus that had bloomed, she quietly watched Su Yun, who was being devoured by the ice shards. Her eyes were fixated. For some reason, she felt uneasy in her heart. It is too calm. Su Yun seems to be standing there and receiving the power of my 10,000 ice blades. If it was an ordinary person, they should have some sort of reaction. Why is Su Yun not reacting at all? Hanyu Xian thought. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something. She waved her hand, causing the ice shards where Su Yun was standing to immediately spread out and floated in the air, forming a semicircle barrier. A surprising scene appeared. Below the ice shards, there was another gray chi barrier, and at that moment, Su Yun stood inside the chi barrier with a flag in his hand. He stood there quietly and looked at Hanyu Xian with a calm look in his eyes. Imperial equipment? Hanyu Xian's face revealed a look of surprise. But very quickly, Shock surfaced in her mind. This technique of mine, even in ordinary Imperial equipment, cannot block it. Why is Su Yun's Imperial equipment able to block it so easily? Could it be that his Imperial equipment is of an extremely high grade? Just then, Su Yun's stab, the immortal mystical scarlet blood, soared into the ground, and then released it. Initially, I did not want to use this technique, but your strength has far exceeded my expectations. If I were to continue hiding it, I would be underestimating you. With that said, Su Yun held onto the 7th-tier Imperial equipment with one hand, while his other hand started to move as though he was forming hand seals. And just as he was forming hand seals, the sword sheath behind him immediately trembled. Seeing that, Hanyu Xian immediately revealed a look of caution. Chapter 4:51. There is no need to doubt Su Yun's strength. She would definitely not doubt the so-called Group D participant. He had barged his way here and displayed his astonishing strength, causing people to fear him. Hanyu Xian stared at the sword sheath that was trembling even more intensely. Finally, she could not hold it in anymore. She waved the sword in her hand, and all the ice shards in the snow jade space flew towards the Imperial equipment. No matter how strong your Imperial equipment is, I am not afraid. Watch how I destroy your Imperial equipment. Hanyu Xian clenched her teeth and thought. But just as the ice shards flew towards Su Yun, the Imperial equipment that was protecting his body suddenly disappeared. What? Hanyu Xian was startled. To remove the Imperial equipment at this time, isn't that courting death? Suddenly, a large number of sword images exploded out from Su Yun's back. Following that, countless of sharp swords revolve around Su Yun. They were like whirlwinds, revolving frantically with Su Yun as the center. And what was even more terrifying was that every single sword's body was blazing hot. The dense scarlet star spirit chi had dyed the whirlwinds into a flaming tornado. Upon contact with a high temperature, all of the ice shards instantly vaporized. The entire snow jade space was completely purified, revealing the grayish-yellow soil. The wind was absorbed by the tornado. The snow was dissolved, as though the entire world had changed. When the last ice shards disappeared, Su Yun released his hand seals, and all of the flying swords revolving around him flew back into the sword sheath. The sound of air breaking came out from the sword sheath. After that, everything returned to normal. The snow jade space once again started to snow, and the wind started to blow. But at that moment, the wind and snow were no longer important. Everyone inside and outside the field stared at the man in the black cloak in the space in shock. All of their hearts were completely subdued. He actually dissolved Hanyu Xian's technique. What mystical technique did Su Yun use just now? Or was it a treasure? This is simply too unimaginable. Lu Gu said in shock. Xiao Ziru's face alternated between red and white. Every time she made a solemn declaration, Su Yun would always use an even more shocking method to slap her in the face. For some reason, Xiao Ziru realized that she hated Su Yun. This man is too mysterious, to the point that I hate him more and more. Every time he caught her off guard, it would cause Xiao Ziru to feel a strong sense of disgust. What kind of existence is Brother Su? Even such a terrifying move could be neutralized? Impossible. Am I dreaming? Lu Zhanyuan looked at the space, his expression somewhat sluggish. In the past, Hanyu Xian was an extremely famous genius, an existence that he could only look up to. He had only heard about her from the conversations of the people in the taverns on the streets, and to be able to see her in the competition, he felt that he was extremely fortunate. This kind of spirit cultivator would definitely be a famous figure in the future. Towards such a person, he should be both respectful and fearful. However, at this moment, such a person's technique had been broken by his own friend and was completely suppressed. He felt that this kind of thing was unimaginable. Brother Su, when can I become as strong as you? Lu Zhanyuan muttered, within the snow jade space. Su Yun, are you wearing a treasure to disguise your fighting strength? Hanyu Xian stared at Su Yun coldly and said, No. Then why were you assigned to Group D with your strength? Then you have to ask the organizers. Su Yun said. He wasn't sure either. Hanyu Xian frowned. Her face sunk. She did not ask anything else. She snorted and raised her sword and rushed toward Su Yun. A large amount of terrifying frigid ice force followed her movements and frantically extended outwards, as though a gigantic ice sun was smashing towards them. In the VIP private room below the stage, a man dressed in gold and jade robes with his black hair combed into a bun was currently holding onto a cup of fragrant tea, quietly watching the intense competition on the stage. The battle was intense. Hanyu Xian was not weak, but Su Yun's performance was even more shocking. His sword techniques, speed, strength, and even mystical techniques were not inferior to Hanyu Xian. Although Hanyu Xian was strong, everyone could tell that it would not be easy for her to defeat Su Yun. The young master in gold and jade robes opened his teacup and took a sip, then spoke up indifferently. "Are you sure you did what I said?" Reporting to young master, "This subordinate has indeed warned Su Yun, but this subordinate did not expect Su Yun to be so stupid to actually dare to do such a thing." The man by the side cupped his fists and bowed, then spoke respectfully, "But young master, please be at ease. Maybe Su Yun does not want to lose too badly." Thus he has been resisting. Maybe not long later he will obediently allow Miss Hanyu Xian to defeat him. "Is that so?" The young master turned his head and looked at Su Yun indifferently. Then his gaze landed on Hanyu Xian, who was dancing around. His originally calm eyes flashed with an uncontrollable passion. Hanyu Xian is extremely beautiful and has a unique physique. Her frigid aqua spirit chi is extremely intoxicating. She is the most suitable dual cultivation companion. If I am able to obtain her, this young master's trip to New Deer City will not be in vain. "Young master, please be at ease. Miss Han will definitely be young master's." "Yes." The young master nodded his head, his gaze continuing to look into the snow jade space. Hallucinatory magic mirror. Hanyu Xian let out a clear and bright shout. She then waved the sword in her hand, causing a large amount of frigid aqua spirit chi to surge out like a huge wave, surging out from the sword blade and striking Su Yun. But just as the frigid aqua spirit chi was about to reach Su Yun, they suddenly congealed and transformed into a flat mirror that surrounded Su Yun. The mirror was a rhombus shape and would produce a large number of reflections, causing Su Yun to see countless of Su Yuns appearing in all directions. All of them were reflections. Hanyu Xian's legs tapped lightly and landed on top of the mirror. She formed hand seals and chanted an incantation with her eyes closed. Seeing all the reflections of Su Yun, a cold glint flashed past their eyes as they stared at Su Yun's body. Like a ferocious beast, they wielded the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword and rushed forward. All of the mirror images resembled Su Yun, and their techniques were not weak either. They actually possessed 30% of Su Yun's sword speed, and when they got close to Su Yun, all of the 20 mirror images brandished their swords frantically. One after another, blood-red beasts opened their mouths and swallowed Su Yun. Sword images filled half of the snow jade space. But a fake was still a fake. Facing such a concentrated attack, Su Yun did not panic. He easily dodged the swords that were flying towards him. He then moved quickly and dodged the attacks of the mirror images. And when he got close to the nearest mirror, he raised his scarlet blood sword and fiercely slashed at it. Puchi! The sword pierced through the mirror and directly slashed at the shoulder of one of the mirror images. However, the mirror image did not feel any pain, but instead, Su Yun felt a pain in his right shoulder, as though it was being ripped apart. He turned to look, only to see that his right shoulder was bleeding and a long wound had appeared. "What?" Su Yun frowned. "These mirror images were created with you as the blueprint, although their overall strength cannot compare to you. But you cannot attack them. If not, they will return all the attacks you inflict on them back to your body." Hanyu Xian said indifferently, "Su Yun, you are very strong, but today I must defeat you." As she spoke, a dense, fighting intent flashed past her eyes. To be able to defeat a genius with astonishing strength, it was the best reward for her hard work. The taste of victory had intoxicated Hanyu Xian. Hearing that, Su Yun's mouth raised into a smile. He raised his head and looked at Hanyu Xian in the ice mirror. Then suddenly, with a tap of his feet, he rushed towards Hanyu Xian like a tornado. Hanyu Xian seemed to have long known that he would make a move on her. She immediately dropped down and entered the ice mirror. She then raised her hand, causing a large number of mirror images of Hanyu Xian to appear in the ice mirror. Suyin thought about what Hanyu Xian had said before, and immediately thrusted his sword towards the mirror image. But when the sword tip pierced forward, a clang sound came out, as though it was blocked by something. Looking carefully, the so-called sword was completely blocked by the ice. Hanyu Xian's mirror image was completely unharmed. The ice mirror was Hanyu Xian's mystical technique. She could easily control it. It could attack and defend. It was extremely terrifying. To break the ice mirror, it will not be easy. Seeing that, Suyin thought, "Kill." Just then, a bellow came out from all around. Hanyu Xian and Su Yun's images in the ice mirror all turned their heads, staring at Su Yun like ferocious beasts. They all rushed forward and unleashed their berserk attacks. The mirror images of the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword and the cold sword seemed to want to devour Su Yun's entire body. Although Su Yun was extremely fast, he was surrounded by mirror images. The concentrated attacks caused his scalp to go numb. Even with his speed, it was extremely strenuous for him. If this continues, I will definitely lose. If I do not break the strange ice mirror, I will be killed by the mirror images. Su Yun's expression congealed. He quickly brandished his sword to block the attacks while observing the mirror images around him. Without question, to break the mystical technique, he had to find Hanyu Xian, who was hiding somewhere. But it was a pity that he was surrounded by Su Yun and Hanyu Xian's mirror images. There were no clues as to where Hanyu Xian was hiding. Frigid sky freezes earth. Just then, a light shout came out from the air. A large amount of hailstones descended from the sky. All of the hailstones that were enveloped by spirit chi were over 50 kilograms in weight, dropping down from the sky. They were as terrifying as bombs. Su Yun snorted. He released his scarlet star spirit chi and flung it towards the sky. The blazing spirit chi melted all of the hailstones, causing a large amount of liquid to fall from the sky, drenching Su Yun's body. Su Yun was not afraid of such an attack. Wait a minute. At this moment, he suddenly discovered something. He hurriedly looked around, only to see that the attacks of the mirror images around him had suddenly slowed down, and their movements were rather clumsy. They were no longer as swift and fierce as before. What's going on? Su Yun was suspicious. He looked at the ice mirrors, only to realize that many of them had shrunk. Could it be that the ice mirrors are afraid of the Scarlet Star spirit chi? Su Yun thought. He looked around, then suddenly grabbed onto the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword. Activating the monarch occult force, he released the terrifying Scarlet Star spirit chi and struck one of the ice mirrors fiercely. Whoosh! The blazing spirit chi instantly melted the ice mirror, causing the mirror images to instantly disappear. Chapter 452. Seeing that, Su Yun secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Ice is ultimately afraid of fire, especially the Scarlet Star spirit chi that was reinforced by the monarch occult force. The temperature was extremely dense. When the spirit chi spread out, the ice and snow melted. One of the ice mirrors was destroyed, and all the other ice mirrors melted into water and disappeared. All of the mirror images disappeared as well. Hanyu Xian, who was dressed like a fairy, wielded her cold sword and stood not far from Su Yun. Ordinary Scarlet Star Spirit Chi is useless against my ice mirror image formation. Only Spirit Chi that is 3 times hotter than ordinary Scarlet Star Spirit Chi can melt it. I never thought that, Su Yun, your Scarlet Star Spirit Chi is so powerful. I admire you, but Hanyu Xian will not admit defeat just like that. Hanyu Xian said coldly. Me too, Su Yun said indifferently. He stared at Hanyu Xian and rushed forward. At that moment, he did not give Hanyu Xian any chance to catch her breath. Hanyu Xian was powerful and was extremely proficient in linking mystical techniques. Her close combat sword techniques were not considered strong, and she relied on a footwork sword technique to support herself. Upon unleashing her footwork, she would release and retract her sword. Like a butterfly dancing, it was as though she was in a dream. But although this footwork technique was ingenious, in front of Su Yun, who was extremely fast, it was not very effective. Su Yun did not hold back at all. He raised the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword and slashed at Hanyu Xian frantically. His extremely fast movements once again appeared in the eyes of the spectators. Hanyu Xian's pupils congealed. On one hand, she strenuously defended against Su Yun's berserk attacks. At the same time, she anxiously stored up a mystical technique, summoning the wind and snow from the snow jade space to attack Su Yun, with the intention of using the mystical wind and snow to restrict the flow of spirit qi in Su Yun's body. But Su Yun seemed to be prepared. The wind and snow required time. He dodged left and right, directly dodging the wind and snow. He circled behind Hanyu Xian and attacked her. His speed was too fast. Hanyu Xian clenched her teeth. She immediately turned to receive the attack, but Su Yun's berserk actions caused her to be unable to defend against it. The cold sword in her hand clashed with him a few times, suddenly. Puchi! 3 deep sword wounds appeared on Hanyu Xian's right arm. Blood flowed out, and her movements became sluggish. It's over. Taking the chance, Su Yun extended his hand out and grabbed onto Hanyu Xian's left arm. Activating the monarch occult force, he transformed his spirit qi into true divine spirit qi, causing his strength to be immense. He pressed down on her shoulder, not allowing her to use any mystical techniques. He then raised the scarlet blood sword in his hand and slashed at Hanyu Xian's right arm. Damn it! A look of unwillingness flashed past Hanyu Xian's eyes. She never thought that Su Yun would actually be so ruthless, to be able to grasp her weakness in such a short period of time, and use such a vicious method to kill her. At such a dangerous moment, Hanyu Xian activated the treasure on her body again. The blue gown suddenly released a large amount of frigid ice force. Following that, her clothes congealed into an ice armor. Clang! The ice armor appeared and blocked the scarlet blood sword attack. But Su Yun seemed to have expected it. Just as the scarlet blood sword was about to slash at the armor, his arm moved. He raised his sword again and stabbed at the armor's shoulder. Although the ice armor was sturdy, it did not completely cover Hanyu Xian's entire body, and there were many places that were exposed, which were places where he could attack. Hanyu Xian's pupils constricted. She was completely in awe of Su Yun's unfathomable and extreme speed. After he attacked her arm, he subconsciously attacked her own shoulder without any hesitation or inertia. Everything he did was extremely natural, like moving clouds and flowing water. It was as though the sword had grown out of his body and was part of his limbs. Puchi! The sound of skin tearing came out once again. A blood-red plum blossom appeared on Hanyu Xian's shoulder. Her body trembled, her face turning pale white. Before she could react, Su Yun's leg kicked out fiercely towards Hanyu Xian's abdomen. When the sword pierced Hanyu Xian, the spirit qi on her body became chaotic, and she was unable to maintain the ice armor. The leg that was covered with dense, true, divine spirit qi was extremely powerful, and when it landed on Hanyu Xian's abdomen, it instantly released a muffled sound. Hanyu Xian flew out, crashing onto the snow jade space's light barrier. She fell to the ground and rolled a few times. She struggled to climb up, but at that moment, she started to cough intensely and spat out blood from her mouth. Vicious. Everyone was startled. He was truly ruthless. Facing a beauty like Hanyu Xian, Su Yun actually did not hold back at all. The 4 evaluators were completely silent as they watched the scene in a daze. No one expected that Hanyu Xian would be defeated so quickly. Su Yun held onto the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword and walked towards Hanyu Xian. His face was still filled with caution. His eyes were filled with seriousness. Although he had gained the upper hand in his attack, in truth, Hanyu Xian still had the strength to fight. For her to be able to kill her way here, her strength was definitely not weak. Hanyu Xian was not willing to admit defeat. She extended her hand to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth. Her eyes were like torches as she stood up shakily. I was too careless, Hanyu Xian said unwillingly. Everyone's gazes were focused on the two of them. They knew that the battle was not over yet. But right at that moment, dong, a deep and resounding bell sound suddenly came out from the competition grounds. Following that, Zhu Wen's loud and clear voice resonated throughout the entire competition grounds. Very good. Then, the victor has been decided. The competition has officially ended. I will now announce. The victor of this round is Su Yun. What? Everyone suddenly turned their heads and stared at Zhu Wen in disbelief. What's going on? Why is it over? Could it be that Miss Han Yu Xian no longer has any strength left to fight? Zhu Wen, do you have eyes or not? Miss Han Yu Xian can clearly continue fighting. How can you judge her as the loser? I don't agree. I don't agree to such an outcome. That's right. How can you judge like that? We don't agree. The competition must continue. The spectators all stood up and shouted excitedly with their hands raised. Zhu Wen's face was perspiring profusely. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but just then, a person standing outside the VIP booth looked at him. Zhu Wen's entire body trembled. He immediately shouted out again. All right, the final round is about to begin. It will be our participant Su Yun against Yushuang Auction House's Qin Si. Who will be the final winner? Let us wait and see. Zhu Wen continued to shout, completely ignoring the dissatisfied crowd. Damn it! Zhu Wen, what are you doing? Judges. Why aren't the judges saying anything? Could it be that the competition is being faked? We are not convinced. Is Su Yun someone from the officials? More and more questions came out. Han Yu Xian stood up, her face pale white as she stared at Zhu Wen. She snorted and walked over with her cold sword. Seeing that, the fats on Zhu Wen's body immediately trembled, his eyes revealing an unconcealable fear. About that, Miss Han. What is going on? Why did you judge me as the loser? Han Yu Xian asked coldly. This is completely young noble's idea. Young noble is worried that if you continue to fight, you'll be injured by Su Yun. So he decided to judge you as the loser and end the competition quickly. Young noble? Which young noble? He, the young noble in the private booth. Zhu Wen placed his hand on his mouth and laughed softly. Miss Han, you definitely don't know who the person in the private booth is, right? This lowly one can tell you. He is an important person. Even the few people above have to treat him as a distinguished guest. After saying that, Zhu Wen carefully pointed to the 4 floating pavilions above. Hearing that, Han Yu Xian's blue eyes stared coldly at the private booth and asked, what kind of important person is that? What does it have to do with me? Why is he interfering in my battle with Su Yun? Zhu Wen rubbed his hands together and said with an exaggerated look, Miss Han, I, Zhu Wen, have to say this, you are truly blessed. This young noble is incredible. He is young noble Liu Yi, one from the Flowing Night aristocratic family. And it is said that this young noble has an extremely high position in the family. Who knows if he will be the next patriarch? As for why young noble one is doing this, isn't it because he admires Miss Han and is worried that you will be injured by Su Yun? Miss Han, you don't have to be so angry. Young noble one is already communicating with Qin Si from the Yushuang auction house. I believe that in the next round, Su Yun will not be able to live. This can be considered as helping Miss Han take revenge. Zhu Wen thought that upon hearing that, Han Yu Xian would be extremely happy. After all, in the ultimate martial world, the fastest way for a female cultivator to cultivate was to become the dual cultivation companion of a few powerful existences, obtaining blessings and benefits. But Han Yu Xian's pale white face became colder and colder. The frigid aqua spirit chi around her body became colder and colder. Zhu Wen trembled. Without saying anything, Han Yu Xian suddenly jumped down the stage and walked towards the private room with an ice-cold expression. The man outside the private room had always been watching Han Yu Xian, and when she walked over coldly, he smiled. Without saying anything, he directly knocked on the private room door and then made an inviting gesture. The private room door opened, and Han Yu Xian looked inside coldly, then walked in. Seeing that, the man respectfully closed the door, then turned his head to look at Su Yun, who was walking down the stage, then walked over. With regards to the victory of this match, not to mention the audience, even Su Yun was baffled by it. Han Yu Xian definitely had the strength to fight. The outcome of the round had not been decided, but why did such a thing happen? Are you happy? Su Yun, You won so easily. Don't you feel complacent? Just as Su Yun was walking back to his seat, a light laughter came out from the side. Su Yun frowned. He turned to look, only to see a man walking towards him. It was the man who wanted him to not win against Han Yuxian. Are you the one behind this? Su Yun asked. Behind this? The man said coldly. Su Yun, are you worthy? It is just that our family's young master does not wish for Miss Han Yuxian to be injured. Seems like it was truly your doing. Hee. You're still concerned about this now? Su Yun, you better worry about your own situation. The man revealed a sinister smile. I told you before, you are not allowed to win against Miss Han Yuxian. I never thought that you would actually ignore my words. Good, very good, Su Yun. Since you have the guts, then don't blame us for being ruthless. When our family's young master is angry, he is extremely terrifying. I hope that in the next round you will still be alive. The man sneered at Su Yun, then turned and walked back to the private room. Chapter 453. Outside the private room, Han Yuxian walked in with a cold face. At that moment, there was only a young master dressed in luxurious robes and two servants standing by the side with their heads lowered respectfully. Other than them, there was no one else. The interior of the room was extremely luxurious. The floor was covered with a layer of resplendent crystal bricks. The walls were decorated with gold, sparkling carvings. All the furniture in the room had mystical arrays revolving around them, releasing an intoxicating fragrance. The young master held onto the teacup and took a sip, then looked at Han Yuxian with a smile on his face. He passed the teacup to the servant beside him and stood up, cupped his fists, and bowed with a smile. This humble servant Lu Yiwen greets Miss Han Yuxian. Lu Yiwen, you are the young master of the Flowing Night aristocratic family. Lu Yiwen? Han Yuxian's expression turned gloomy. She stared at the man, her cherry lips opened slightly, and she asked coldly, Why did you do that? Why did you stop me from competing with Su Yun? Su Yun is a barbarian. He does things without any regard for the consequences. This humble servant is worried that if Miss continues to fight with him, you will only be injured by him. That is why Lu Yiwen ordered people to do this. Lu Yiwen laughed and said, This is a competition. How can I be overcautious? If I was afraid of being injured, why would Han Yuxian participate in the competition? Lu Yiwen, I request for you to immediately come out and negotiate with the organizers of the competition, clarify this matter, and arrange for me to compete with Su Yun again. Han Yuxian said coldly. She was a stubborn woman, and even more so, a female cultivator with a strong ego. She did not think that she was weaker than Su Yun, and did not think that she would lose the competition, but to lose so mysteriously, she was not willing to accept it, and was even more unwilling. Miss Han, do you care about the 1 million cultivation coins reward? If you truly like it, I can give you 1 million cultivation coins anytime. Lu Yiwen laughed and said, It is not a matter of cultivation coins. Do you think I lack cultivation coins? What I care about is who is stronger between me and Su Yun. That is a matter of principle. Young Master Wen, you have broken my principle. Do you understand? Principle. When Lu Yiwen heard this, he immediately burst into laughter. His laughter was unbridled and extremely arrogant. Miss Han, I have a good understanding of you. However, isn't the principle that you speak of a little too laughable? Sometimes, winning or losing was very important, but at a time like this, who won or lost didn't matter. I will be honest with you, Miss Han. Actually, I admire Miss Han a lot. The reason why I stopped you from competing with Su Yun is because I hope that you will not be hurt by Su Yun. I hope that Miss Han can become dual cultivation partners with me and study the Tao of spirit cultivation together. Other than that, I have no other intentions. As for Su Yun, Miss Han, you don't have to worry. Qin Si will personally take care of Su Yun in the next round and help you take revenge. Lu Ye's words were very straightforward and even very explicit. Although it was not difficult for male and female cultivators to become partners, saying it in such a dignified manner would inevitably make people feel uncomfortable. Han Yuxian frowned. A trace of anger flashed past her eyes. This is the reason why you wanted to end my competition with Su Yun. If your injuries cause your cultivation to regress, it will definitely affect our dual cultivation in the future. Is that so? Hanyu Xin snorted. She immediately understood Lu Yiwen's intentions. It was already impossible for him to help her in the next round. So after thinking about it, she said, "Young noble Lu Yiwen, Hanyu Xin appreciates your good intentions, but regarding the matter of dual cultivation partners, please forgive me for not having such intentions. Even if Hanyu Xin wants to find a dual cultivation partner, I will definitely not find someone that I hate. Goodbye." With that, Hanyu Xin turned and walked out of the private room. Hanyu Xin, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The man standing outside the private room immediately blocked Hanyu Xion's path and bellowed, "Bai Shan, let her go." Lu Yiwen laughed and waved his hand. "But young noble, just let her go." Lu Yiwen was not angry at all. He did not even look anxious, as though to him, Hanyu Xion's actions were not inappropriate at all. Seeing that, the man called Bai Shan snorted inwardly and could only step aside. Hanyu Xion's mind was filled with suspicion. She thought that Lu Yiwen would send people to obstruct her, but he actually allowed her to leave so easily. What is he thinking? Hanyu Xian did not understand. But she knew one thing. By rejecting Lu Yiwen, it meant that she had offended Lu Yiwen. If it were anyone else, Hanyu Xian would have long flipped out. But after knowing that the other party was from the Flowing Night aristocratic family, Hanyu Xian could not help but feel fear. Thus, she only asked a few questions before leaving. She could not do anything to Lu Yiwen. Seems like I have to return to the sect for a period of time. Hanyu Xian thought. She increased her pace and headed out of the competition grounds. Seeing that Hanyu Xian had left, the man called Bai Shan walked into the private room and cupped his fist to greet the young noble who was drinking tea, then asked, "Young noble, why did you let Hanyu Xian leave just like that? With young noble's cultivation, it is not impossible for you to forcefully take her." "Forcefully take her? What? Do you think this young noble only covets her body?" Lu Yiwen said coldly. "This young noble cares about her talent, physique, and cultivation. Dual cultivation requires both parties to be willing. If we forcefully take her, we will definitely not be able to achieve the best results. We cannot be too hasty with Hanyu Xian's matter. We have to take it slowly. She will not be able to run away." After so many years, how many female cultivators have managed to escape from this young noble's palms? Hearing that, Bai Shan was startled for a moment, then laughed and cupped his fists again. "This lowly one understands." "Yes." Lu Yiwen nodded his head, then continued. "Let's put Hanyu Xian's matter aside for now. Let's settle the debt with Su Yun first. In the entire New Deer City, there are not many who dare to go against this young noble's wishes. Pass down the order. Prepare a Saint Rank pill refining cauldron and get Qin Si to bring Su Yun's 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls over. I want to use his 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls to refine a spirit essence pill. This lowly one will do it now." The battle between Hanyu Xian and Su Yun made many people feel that it was a pity. Maybe many years later, when people would talk about the battle, they would quarrel endlessly about who won and who lost. The competition grounds were still bustling with noise and excitement. Some of the spectators continued to vent their unhappiness, but of course they were asked to leave the competition grounds, while the remaining people continued to spectate. Although the majority of the people were suspicious of the fairness of the competition, it was no longer important because the final round of the competition was finally about to begin. Who would be the champion of the New Deer City competition? That was what everyone cared about the most. Su Yun sat in the participant seating area with his eyes closed. At that moment, 60% of the gazes were focused on him, while the rest were on the pavilion of the Yushuang auction house. Su Yun, who is he? A member of Group D is actually able to kill to such an extent. Who exactly is this unknown person? A few people started to guess Su Yun's identity. Even Lu Zhanyuan was curious about Su Yun's origins. Young noble, young noble. Just then, an anxious voice came out from the walkway, only to see the servant Xiao Xiao running over anxiously. Su Yun looked over. "Xiao Xiao, what's wrong?" Xiao Xiao ran over while gasping for breath. She held onto the chair and gasped for breath, then took out a piece of paper from the willow belt on her waist and handed it over to Su Yun. She spoke respectfully. Young noble. This is what Miss Han's servant requested this servant to give to young noble. She said that this was written by Miss Han for young noble, and hopes that young noble can take a look. Oh, Su Yun frowned. He secretly looked around, then opened the cultivation paper. However, he saw a line of beautiful words on the pure white paper. Qin Si has received orders to kill. Leave the competition grounds immediately. Seeing that, Su Yun's eyes turned. He kept the paper and asked Xiao Xiao, "Where is Miss Han? I heard that she has already left the competition grounds. From what her servants said, Miss Han plans to return to her sect overnight." Return to her sect? Su Yun scratched his chin and thought for a moment. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He looked towards the private room at the end of the walkway. After thinking for a moment, he was about to stand up. But right at that moment, all right, everyone, the moment that everyone has been waiting for is finally here. The pinnacle battle of the competition is finally here. Who will be the champion of New Deer City's great competition? The results of the competition are about to be revealed. Zhu Wen's exaggerated voice came out at this moment, causing Su Yun's face to stiffen. In that moment, he felt the attention of the spectators once again converge on him. He was initially willing to listen to Han Yu Xian's suggestion and leave the competition grounds. Although he was not afraid of the competition, he did not dare guarantee that anything else would happen. But as matters stood, the arrow was already on the bowstring, and he had nowhere to run even if he wanted to. Su Yun sighed helplessly, and a bitter smile surfaced on his face. Now, let's invite our last two pinnacle participants up the stage. Let us invite participant Qin Si and participant Su Yun. Zhu Wen continued to shout. The spectators immediately erupted into cheers. Brother Su, do your best as long as you defeat Qin Si. Your name will shake the entire New Deer City. Lu Zhanyuan spoke excitedly to Su Yun. Su Yun smiled and nodded his head. He stood up and leapt up the stage. Plop! He landed on the ground lightly like a feather. His movements were natural and confident. His pitch-black cloak gave him a sense of mystery. The faintly discernible pale white face under the hood made him look extremely demonic. On his back was a gigantic sword sheath. With the scarlet blood sword in his hand, he looked extremely majestic. Su Yun, do your best. Su Yun, take first place. We will support you. The spectators immediately cheered out in excitement. Su Yun heaved a sigh of relief, then looked at the pavilion in the sky. At this moment, the door of the pavilion was opened, and a figure dashed out from inside. The moment the figure entered the snow jade space, torrential killing intent engulfed the entire space. Su Yun smelled it, and his face immediately turned gloomy. Chapter 454. Su Yun was a person who would definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. He was extremely petty. If someone treated him well, he would remember it for life. If someone provoked him, he would remember it for life. He had his own principles, and he could not tolerate anyone who had killing intent towards him. The person who wants to kill me must first die for me. Su Yun stared coldly at the man who had landed in the snow jade space, his pitch-black eyes revealing a trace of evil intent. Qin Si was dressed in a blue-lined brown robe. His attack patterns were extremely varied, and it was said that he could use 3 different weapons. Su Yun saw that Qin Si was empty-handed on the stage, but his palms were covered with a thin layer of green qi, which was extremely mysterious. Qin Si's face was slightly skinny, his eyes were sunken in, his nose bridge was high, and he looked extremely gloomy. He stared intently at Su Yun, like an eagle staring at its prey. This feeling made Su Yun extremely unhappy. The wind and snow inside the snow jade space were still blowing, but the two of them did not care. Seeing the two of them, Zhu Wen immediately shouted out. The 2 participants are already on stage. Then, fellow spectators, who will be the final winner of the competition? Who will be the champion of our New Deer Great competition? Now, the answer will be revealed. I, Zhu Wen, will officially announce that the final battle of the New Deer Great competition will now officially begin. Boom! A melodious chime of a bell rang out. At the same time, all the spectators who were watching the snow jade space tensed up. The 2 of them stood there. Su Yin extended his hand out and slowly pulled out the scarlet blood sword, then stared coldly at Qin Si. Qin Si frowned. I can see killing intent in your eyes. Why? You want to kill me? Maybe I should be the one saying that to you, Su Yin said. Hearing that, Qin Si became quiet for a moment, then shook his head. Seems like you're extremely sensitive to killing intent. To be able to fight your way here, you truly live up to your name. You are right. I truly want to kill you, although it is not my own intention. But regardless of the reason, you must die today, and you must die by my hands. Your 3 spirits and 7 spirits will be mine. His tone was arrogant, as though everything was natural. Good. Very good. Su Yin nodded his head seriously, his mouth revealing a sinister smile. His entire body skin gradually released a black light, bits of evil qi leaking out from his skin. From now on, he no longer saw this as a competition, but a battle of life and death. He could no longer show any mercy, be soft-hearted, or hold back. Since he wanted to fight, he had to fight regardless of the consequences. Otherwise, he would be the one to die. He stretched out his hand again and sheathed the pitch-black longsword on his back at his waist. The longsword was sheathed, an evil aura surrounded the blade gently. It was extremely strange. Su Yin, wake up, Qin Si said coldly. Then with a flash, he rushed forward. His hands danced wildly in the air, and in an instant he struck out 1,000 palms. Each of his palms was covered in powerful, profound energy, and within this profound energy, there was also a large amount of terrifying poison. Even if one were to forcefully receive it, they would still be attacked by the poison. It was terrifying beyond compare. However, Qin Si naturally would not rely on such petty tricks to defeat Su Yin. To be able to kill his way through all the obstacles, Su Yun's strength was not to be underestimated. So how could he be careless? When the 1,000 palm prints were released, Qin Si immediately drew a circle with his hands in the air. He closed his eyes and started chanting, activating an even more terrifying mystical technique. The 1,000 palm images were just to buy him time. Since he wanted to kill Su Yin, he did not hold back. But just then, an even more powerful and sharp intent erupted from Su Yun's side. Su Yin stepped forward and rushed over. He threw away the immortal, mystical scarlet blood sword in his hand and took out his 7th-tier imperial equipment. He quickly rushed towards the 1,000 palm images. When his body was about to collide with the palm images, the imperial equipment was activated and a chi barrier enveloped his body, dissipating all of the palm images. Qin Si frowned. He stopped his mystical technique and retreated. Su Yin waved his hand in the air, and the scarlet blood sword shot towards Qin Si like a red bolt of lightning. Chi! The sword tip was like a venomous snake, releasing a bone-chilling sound. Is this the imperial sword technique? Humph! You dare to use such insignificant techniques from the mortal plane to embarrass yourself in front of me. Qin Si's eyes flashed with disdain. He clasped his hands together and aimed his palms at the incoming scarlet blood sword, then pushed forward. Ding! The tip of the scarlet blood sword was blocked by his palms. Qin Si unleashed his strength, releasing a large amount of spirit life, qi, from his palms. The spirit life qi did not flourish, but instead went in the opposite direction, releasing a large amount of terrifying death qi. This was a high-grade attribute of the spirit life qi. Life was death. Beginners of spirit life qi could use this spirit life qi to revive the dead, but as they continued to cultivate, they would be able to use the spirit life qi as they pleased and could use it to save people or even kill people. And Qin Si's spirit life reversal power was one of the best. The spirit qi he released was extremely vast and mysterious. Not only was it effective on humans, beasts, birds, and fishes, it was even effective on plants, rocks, and even steel. The mystical spirit life qi leaked out from his palms and enveloped the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword. Qin Si actually wanted to use his spirit life qi to destroy the sword. But after persisting for a moment, the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword remained unharmed. Qin Si frowned. He was startled. He did not know that the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword was a mother sword. So how could it be broken so easily? Such a sword, even in the ultimate martial world, would be an incredible treasure. The immortal mystical scarlet blood sword suddenly shrunk back and hovered in the air. In that moment, a buzzing sound came out from the entire snow jade space. Qin-Si's heart sank. He looked towards the source of the sound, only to realize that the source of the sound was actually coming from the large sword sheath behind Su Yun. Limitless sword sheath. So thousands of sub-swords flew out from the sword sheath. With the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword as the center, they ferociously flew forward, transforming into a torrent of swords that attacked relentlessly. The densely packed sub-swords flew over. How spectacular was it? How could Qin-Si dare to be careless? He immediately flipped his hands and took out a palm-sized box and threw it into the air. The box continued to revolve and flew up, becoming the size of a house. It then dropped down and enveloped Qin-Si. As a participant of the organization, Qin-Si had many treasures on him, and the treasure he was holding was a 47th tier Imperial equipment with astonishing defense. All of the ferocious sword currents struck the gigantic box and were immediately deflected away. The box was not damaged in the slightest as it defended against the sub-swords. Su Yun snorted. His figure flashed and landed inside the box. His right hand grabbed onto the death sword by his waist. He grabbed onto the sword hilt and pulled it out. Clang! A black light slashed out, as though it wanted to slash the entire snow jade space apart. In that moment, the box containing Qin-Si was slashed open. Imperial equipment. He actually slashed the Imperial equipment apart. Regardless of whether it was the spectators or Qin-Si himself, their hearts were all trembling. They were all dumbstruck. What cultivation is Su Yun at? What sword is that? How is it so terrifying? Su Yun did not hold back at all. At that moment, he was using all of his strength. Even if he had to take out the death sword, he would not hesitate, because the opponent was someone who wanted to kill him so badly. Against such a person, is there a need to hide anything? When the box was slashed open, Qin-Si's face turned white. The spirit essences that were constantly channeling spirit chi into the Imperial equipment suddenly trembled. His entire body trembled. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He anxiously turned his head, only to see Su Yun's sword slashing toward his head. The sword tip flickered with an evil light. Su Yun's eyes were blood red. His pale white face under the hood was extremely sinister, as though he was a demon. What's going on? Why is Su Yun suddenly so ferocious? Furthermore, his moves are completely different from the way he fought before. It's as if he's a completely different person. What's going on? Qin-Si's heart trembled. He anxiously activated his treasure. Swoosh! An electric current revolved around his body, causing him to disappear. When Su Yun's sword landed on the ground, the electric current reignited and he reappeared. This was the treasure that Qin-Si had used before. It allowed him to temporarily hide inside a treasure and reappear after the danger had passed. However, just relying on this treasure was not enough. Su Yun raised his hand, causing the 1,000 sub-swords around him to form a circle and frantically revolve around Qin-Si. Like a gigantic storm of swords, a large number of sword images started to revolve around him. Controlling sword was not a difficult task, much less controlling swords, even controlling blades, spears, or hammers, to a spirit master cultivator. They were all child's play. However, controlling over 1,000 of these weapons at the same time was a completely different matter, especially when controlling over 1,000 weapons while maintaining such a high speed of rotation. It was even more astonishing. Qin-Si looked at the countless flying swords around him, his expression tensing up. Good Su Yun, so your methods are not limited to just this. I am afraid that Hanyu Xin is not your opponent. But, do you think that you could defeat me like that? Don't be too arrogant. Qin-Si roared. All of the spirit chi in his body suddenly spewed out like a fountain, releasing a large amount of terrifying spirit chi. A bit of spirit chi touched Su Yun's skin, causing the parts that were touched by the spirit chi to immediately die and fall off, revealing his white bones. If he were to be completely devoured by the spirit chi, In less than a second, he would turn into white bones. However, although the spirit chi was terrifying, it was not hard to deal with. It was still spirit life chi, and naturally feared the swift wind spirit chi the most. Su Yun activated his pure divine spirit chi and swung the death sword. Countless wind blades rushed out and swept the spirit life chi towards Qin Si. Seeing that, Qin Si frowned. He wanted to use his treasure to block, but Su Yun did not give him the chance. Taking the chance that Qin Si was surrounded by the 1,000 swords, he raised his speed to the limit and rushed forward. Qin Si could not react in time. The pitch-black sword tip was already close to his neck, and at the moment when the sword tip was about to slash at his neck, an evil spirit came out from the sword blade. At the same time, it extended out 2 sinister evil claws and aimed for his heart. At that moment, Qin Si could only care about his neck and could not care about his heart. He was definitely going to die. Chapter 455. Facing such a sure-kill attack, Qin Si was caught unprepared. He had seen all of Su Yun's previous battles. Regardless of whether it was against Li Chongzai or Han Yuexin, Su Yun had always displayed conservative techniques. He did not have any intention of attacking, nor did he have any strong destructive capabilities. But now it was different. Not only was his sword fast, it was evil and strange, causing people to be unable to believe it. It was as though he was using all of his strength to attack, as though he had thrown away his own life and was vowing to kill his opponent. Was he hiding his strength all along? Anger surfaced in Qin Si's mind. His expression became even more sinister. At the moment of imminent peril, he no longer hesitated and immediately activated his life-saving treasure. Monarch Temple Bell. With a loud roar, a deep and resounding bell sound exploded out from Qin Si's chest. Before Su Yun could even react, he was blown away by the bell sound and retreated backwards, his entire body trembling. It was as though he was struck by something. Qin Si seized the opportunity and slapped out with his palm. The palm released a gust of wind. The destructive spirit chi accumulated in his palm like a tornado. If he was struck by this palm, even if he did not die, he would be heavily injured. Although Qin Si's movements were fast, he could not compare to Su Yun's speed. Just as the palm was about to reach him, Su Yun used all of his strength to twist his body and dodge to the side. At the same time, he moved his left hand and released a thread of spirit chi, forming thousands of orders in the air. The thousands of sub-swords received the orders and flew towards Qin Si. The sub-swords flew over with their tips pointed straight at Su Yun, but Qin Si was not afraid at all. He continued to rush towards Su Yun, as though the 1,000 sub-swords were air to him. Boom! Just as the sub-swords were about to reach his body, another deep and resounding bell sound came out from his body. The bell sound was like a shockwave that spread out in all directions. All of the sub-swords were affected by it and were directly flung out, unable to injure Qin Si at all. What exactly is this? Su Yun frowned. He stood up and looked at it. This is my Qin Si's famous artifact. It is also my life-saving treasure called Monarch Temple Bell. It uses my life as a guide. After using it once, I cannot use it a second time. Although it is a pity to use it here, but Su Yun, if I do not defeat you today, I, Qin Si, will lose my reputation. So even if I have to use it now, I will not hesitate. Qin Si bellowed and rushed forward again. Su Yun controlled the sub-sword and continued to stab at him. However, he was like an ancient bell that was being hit as he moved. He constantly let out dull bell sounds, and thick shockwaves crazily overflowed from his body. No matter what got close to him, it would be knocked away by the sound, unable to harm him in the slightest. Clang, 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 clang. The approaching flying swords were all knocked away. No, normal flying swords were no longer a threat to him. Even if he used the Desolator's invisibility to launch a sneak attack, it would still be useless. His Monarch Temple Bell seemed to protect its wielder and was not controlled by the wielder. It did not seem to rely on sight to catch things, but only on its senses. The Desolator was also useless. If he wanted to break this move, he could only rely on restricting his movements. Su Yun took a deep breath. He suddenly leapt into the air. At the same time, he formed hand seals with his left hand, closed his eyes, and quickly muttered. Circles of profound spirit chi spread out from his fingertips. But the profound spirit chi was no longer as sharp as before. It did not have much power, but was as gentle as a gentle breeze, gradually spreading out in all directions. A unique cold chi leaked out from the snow jade space. Although the snow jade space was extremely cold, the cold chi was like a mud lotus. It was outstanding. Su Yun's eyes darkened. He raised his hand up high and bellowed. Cold hail, sword formation. With that said, countless cold lights shot out in all directions and disappeared. Following that, Su Yun raised the death sword and rushed towards Qin Si. When he got close to Qin Si, he slashed down with his sword, but he did not aim at Qin Si's body, but at his arm. The sword tip was extremely fast. Su Yun had unleashed his maximum speed. His movements were so fast that Qin Si was unable to react, and with a kacha sound, the death sword's tip had just struck Qin Si's palm, when a wave of cold energy flowed into his body. Seeing that, Su Yun immediately activated the formation, causing a large amount of cold frost chi to spread out from Qin Si's palm and into his body. The cold hail, sword formation's cold frost chi began to take effect. It was as though Qin Si's body was being set off by firecrackers. The dong-dong sounds did not stop and continued to sound out frantically. The frost spread to his shoulder armor. If it wanted to go deeper, it would be shattered by the sound of the bell. However, the power of the sword formation of cold frost was far from that. Even if it was shattered, it would continue to spread, persevering and extremely tough. But relying on the cold hail sword formation was not enough. There needed to be a strong attack to pressure Qin Si, causing the power of the monarch temple bell in his body to disperse, and then create an opportunity. Su Yun's talent was astonishing, adding the treasures and fortuitous encounters. The profound spirit force in his body was recovering faster than an ordinary person, and the amount of profound spirit force he could store was not something an ordinary first-stage spirit master cultivator could compare to. Although Qin Si's cultivation was higher than his profound spirit force was not as dense. So in a direct confrontation of profound spirit chi, Su Yun was not afraid at all. Su Yun secretly took a deep breath. Although the profound spirit chi in his body was being consumed frantically, he did not hesitate. His fingers moved and formed hand seals, releasing profound spirit chi in all directions. Out of the thousands of swords, 6 of the sharpest sub-swords flew out, and under the guidance of the Desoler, they gathered above Qin Si and started to revolve quickly. The 7 swords revolved faster and faster, and the dense, profound spirit chi enveloped them as one. Qin Si could not see the swords, but he could sense the terrifying killing intent. What's going on? Qin Si's face changed. He felt that he was unable to breathe. He raised his head to look up, only to find that it was empty. There was nothing there. It must be Su Yun's doing, Qin Si thought coldly. He stared at Su Yun without any hesitation and directly rushed towards Su Yun. He used all his strength to raise his hands that were covered in frost. He released his profound spirit chi and struck towards Su Yun's head. A terrifying, profound spirit chi burst forth from his palms. The profound spirit chi shattered the frost and struck towards Su Yun's head with an unstoppable force. As though it could shatter a mountain into dust, it struck towards Su Yun's head, and upon being struck, he would definitely die. At that moment, Su Yun was still standing in his original position with his eyes closed, chanting and forming hand seals with a focused expression. Facing Qin Si's attack, he did not have any reaction, as though he was immersed in it. Seeing that, Qin Si was secretly happy. It's over. The palm wind descended. But, at that moment of life and death, a sharp sword suddenly shot down from above Qin Si's head. It suddenly appeared and pierced towards his head. The danger had come so quickly. However, Qin Si did not even look at it. With a monarch temple bell, he was not afraid of the flying swords. Then, just as Qin Si was confident that he would be able to kill Su Yun suddenly opened his eyes. A chi barrier enveloped his entire body, and his hand that was forming hand seals had unknowingly grabbed onto a flag. Imperial equipment? Qin Si was startled, but at that moment, he had no choice but to release the arrow. He gathered all of the power in his body into his palm and released it without a care for anything else. Imperial equipment. I am not afraid, even if it's an Imperial equipment. Just watch how I destroy your Imperial equipment and completely defeat you. Qin Si's face distorted. His eyes were wide open. At that moment, he seemed to have used all of his strength. Rumble. The palm that was filled with terrifying spirit chi smashed onto the chi barrier, releasing a terrifying explosion. Ah! Qin Si roared out in anger. The palm that was accumulating spirit chi was trembling frantically. His arm was bent. He wanted to forcefully break the chi barrier, but the chi barrier that was protecting Su Yun did not move at all. Not even a ripple was produced. Su Yun, who was behind the chi barrier, stood in front of Qin Si and looked at him quietly with a cold gaze. What? Qin Si's heart turned cold. He felt that his palm was unable to break the barrier at all. What grade of Imperial equipment is this? Why can't even my technique break it? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. This berserk destructive palm can even break a 30th grade Imperial equipment. Why is Su Yun's Imperial equipment not damaged at all? What grade is this Imperial equipment? Then, without waiting for Qin Si to think, the sharp sword had already pierced towards his head. Dong! The bell sounded out again. But then, a shocking scene appeared. The dense and oppressive bell sound should have deflected the flying sword. But at that moment, it did not deflect the incoming sharp sword, but instead, it was in a deadlock. The sword was extremely sturdy. It pierced straight towards Qin Si, but was blocked by the bell sound that erupted from Qin Si's body. The tip of the sword stopped 5 inches above Qin Si's head. The sword body swayed, as though it could not hold on any longer. Seeing that, Qin Si's face changed. He immediately extended his hand out to attack the sword. But another sword appeared from above and fiercely pierced over. With 2 powerful swords attacking at the same time, how could Qin Si dare to be careless? He immediately retracted his technique and gathered all of the spirit chi in his body into the Monarch Palace bell embedded at the side of his heart. He activated it to the maximum and did his best to defend. I never thought that you would actually have such a method. I was too careless. Qin Si stared coldly at Su Yun. He started to gasp for breath. The 2 swords descending at the same time caused the pressure on him to multiply. The might of the 2 swords were far from what the other flying swords could compare to. Qin Si felt as though there were 2 huge mountains above his head that were extremely heavy. So. Suddenly, another 5 sounds came out from above Qin Si's head. Qin Si's mind tensed up. He anxiously raised his head and looked up. In that moment, his eyes became lifeless, and a chill ran down his spine. 5 swords. Another 5 swords had appeared, and they were all aimed at his head. Every sword seemed to have thousands of soldiers and horses galloping on it. The surging killing intent could not be concealed and surged out like waves. The killing intent seemed to come from a god. Crack! Qin Si's chest suddenly trembled a few times. Following that, his chest split open and blood flowed out, breaking from the inside out. Almost at the same time, the sound of the bell that was protecting him came to an abrupt stop, and the aura around his body collapsed. The 7 fierce swords directly pierced into the top of his head without any obstruction, as if there was nothing there. Chapter 456. The 7 Ascension Slaughter Formation's specialty lay in its strangeness and terror. When the 7 swords were executed, their might was boundless. Every sword was unyielding and unrelenting, and they would not stop until death. Previously, Qin Si had already been thrown into confusion by the cold hail sword formation, and now that he was being corroded by the 7 Ascension Slaughter Formation, the pressure on him had multiplied. Adding that Su Yun's timing in activating the sword formation was perfect, it resulted in such an effect. If he had unleashed the 7 Ascension Slaughter Formation right from the start, he would most likely have been dissolved by Qin Si. The 7 Ascension Slaughter Formation was powerful, but it could not be maintained for long. It would exhaust all of his spirit chi, and Su Yun would definitely lose. Su Yun had relied on the powerful defense of the 7th tier Imperial equipment to counterattack, when Qin Si unleashed his death technique. Qin Si had focused all of his power on his palm, causing the defense of the Monarch Temple Bell to be unable to reach its maximum, allowing the Seven Ascension Slaughter Formation to make its move. Qin Si's entire body froze, as though he was petrified. 7 sharp swords had pierced through his skull. His head was like a blossoming flower. It was extremely strange. A blood-red liquid mixed with a milky white viscous substance flowed out from the crack. Qin Si's body trembled a few times and finally fell to the ground powerlessly. Qin Si was dead. The most fatal parts of a spirit master cultivator would be the heart and head. Once these 2 parts were damaged, no matter how strong one's cultivation was, it would be difficult for them to survive. Qin Si's brain was pierced by 7 swords, and he was already dead. Even if he was an official participant supported by the trading organizations, he was helpless in such a situation. Suyin did not give Qin Si any chance to revive. With a slight movement of his fingers, the 7 swords spread out in all directions, causing Qin Si's head to blossom like a flower and split into pieces. The competition had officially ended. He waved his hand. So. The 1,000 swords flew back into the sword sheath. The Desolator returned to its original position, and the Death Sword was slowly returned to its sheath. Everything returned to normal. The wind and snow within the snow jade space continued to blow, but the entire arena was completely silent. Pairs of lifeless eyes stared blankly at Su Yun, and many dumbstruck faces stared at him. Qin Si is dead? The audience looked at each other, their eyes filled with disbelief. Kill an official player? How daring was that? Qin Si was the representative of the Yu Shuang auction house. Killing him was equivalent to provoking the Yu Shuang auction house. The other official participants had their own chamber of commerce to support them, so it was fine to kill them. But who was Su Yun? How could he be so bold? First, he killed Dao Huang, and now he wants to kill Qin Si. Was he not afraid of death? Where did this person come from? He offended the Quick Blade sect, and now he killed Qin Si and offended the Yu Shuang auction house. Does he have some big shot backing him? To be able to possess such an outstanding sword technique, I'm afraid he's extremely talented and different from ordinary people. Such a person might really have some incredible backing. It's hard to imagine. This is a provocation to the Yu Shuang auction house. Could it be that Su Yun is not afraid at all when facing these powerful giants? The audience and the spectating contestants discussed among themselves. Many people revealed an appreciative attitude towards Su Yun's actions, but even more people looked like they were watching a show, wanting to see how Su Yun would end things. With Qin Si dead, the Yu Shuang auction house no longer had a way out. If Su Yun were to walk out of New Deer City safe and sound, where would the Yu Shuang auction house hide their face in the future? In truth, Su Yun knew of the consequences of killing Qin Si, but since it had come to this, he had no other choice. Just like Dao Huang, if he did not kill them, he would be the one to die. When fighting with other participants, the participants would only kill him until he lost his fighting strength, and rarely would they kill him. But the 2 of them were different. They were fighting with the mentality of destroying his soul. Facing such an opponent, if Su Yun were to be soft, he would be the one to die. But regarding all of these, Su Yun was not worried about the Yu Shuang auction house. According to what he knew, the 4 trading organizations were not on the same path, so the threat of the Yu Shuang auction house was much smaller. The true threat came from other places. Inside the luxurious private room, Kacha, a clear sound came out. An exquisite teacup in Lu Yiwen's hands turned into dust. Su Yun. Hee. Interesting, this is too interesting. After so many years, there's finally someone who can pique my interest. Lu Yiwen sneered. Through the window, he looked at the black-robed man standing on the stage. Young master, this man has gone against your wishes time and time again, and provoked you. Do you need this little one to take action and capture him for you? The man called by Sean bowed, and cupped his fists, and spoke respectfully. No need. Lu Yiwen waved his hand. With Qin Si's death, the people from the Yu Shuang auction house are even angrier than us. If Qin Si had died in the hands of the representatives, it would have been fine, but this time he died in the hands of nobody. They have lost all their face. How can they let this go? Let's see how the Yushuang auction house handles this. Bai Shan nodded his head. Yes, young master. With Qin Si's death, the competition had officially come to an end. Su Yun kicked Qin Si's corpse away and walked out of the snow jade space. The 4 judges and the host, Zhu Wan, stared at him in a daze. The 5 of them realized that as Su Yun walked over, their breathing and heartbeats actually quickened. The hooded man actually gave them an indescribable sense of oppression. Su Yun walked to Zhu Wan side and said indifferently, Zhu Wan, the competition is over. Why aren't you announcing the results and giving out the rewards? Zhu Wan's entire body trembled. Only then did he react, but he did not shout anxiously. Instead, he looked at the pavilion of the Yushuang auction house worriedly, his eyes filled with difficulty. He had never thought that Su Yun would win the competition, let alone him. Even many people did not expect it. But the reality was the opposite. Rewards? Humph, using despicable methods to defeat others. How can such a competition be counted? Just then, a cold snort came out from the pavilion of the Yushuang auction house. Then, 3 figures dashed out of the pavilion of the Yushuang auction house and landed on the ground. The moment the 3 of them appeared, they released their auras, as though 3 heavens were collapsing, causing everyone in the competition grounds to have difficulty breathing. All of them were restless. Many of them could not endure it any longer and immediately prostrated on the ground, not even daring to raise their heads. Su Yun was the same. He held onto the death sword, using the sword sheath to support his tottering body. He clenched his teeth and endured the terrifying pressure. Almighty Being. A true Almighty Being's cultivation was most likely above the Spirit Master realm. What kind of terrifying person was that? Kacha, kacha, kacha. Just then, the death sword in his hand suddenly became restless. The sword body in the sword sheath swayed continuously, as though it was about to come out. Su Yun's expression congealed. Could it be that the death sword was provoked by the opponent's powerful spirit chi? Such guts! You dare to behave atrociously here? Don't you know where you are? Brat, quickly retract your spirit chi. If not, this old man will scatter your soul, and you will never be able to reincarnate. Another voice came out, only to see that the door of the new deer auction house had opened. An old man dressed in yellow robes and a few guards with blades flew down. One of them was the man who had invited Su Yun. The old man appeared and waved his hand, causing his sleeves to flutter. A burst of gentle chi spread out, causing the pressure on everyone's shoulders to disappear without a trace. Su Yun gasped for breath, then stood up. Seeing that the old man had appeared, Su Yun secretly heaved a sigh of relief. President Zhang Hong, what are you doing? Don't tell me you want to protect the person who cheated in the competition. He violated the rules of the competition and won. He must accept the punishment of the competition and cripple all of his cultivation. The one who spoke was a skinny and tan man who looked to be in his 40s. However, the old man Zhang Hong was not afraid. He glanced at the man and snorted. Brat, you are not qualified to speak to me. Quickly get your president, Yushuang, to come over. You. The man was furious, but he did not dare make a move, since the old man's identity and strength was not something he could contend against. He took a deep breath and said coldly, Our president has something to do, and left the headquarters of the auction house a few days ago. I, Du Wenin, will be in charge of today's competition. President Zhang Hong, I now request for your new deer auction house to be a witness, and point out that this man used despicable methods in his fight with participant Qin Si. Despicable methods? Tell me, how did Su Yun cheat? Without waiting for Du Wenin to finish, Zhang Hong interrupted him and questioned. Participant Qin Si's Monarch Temple bell is unbreakable, but Su Yun was able to easily break his Monarch Temple bell. Such a thing is impossible, so there is only one possibility. Su Yun must have used some forbidden technique, and forbidden techniques are not allowed to be used in any competition. So, Su Yun has broken the rules. We need to cripple his cultivation. Du Wenin said, You said Su Yun used a forbidden technique? Hee. Then this old man wants to ask everyone here, did anyone see Su Yun use a forbidden technique? Zhang Hong laughed. His sunken old eyes released a light aura. He looked around and saw that everyone was trembling. None of them shook their heads, indicating that they did not see anything. Although the Yushuang auction house and New Deer auction house were equal in strength in New Deer City, the Yushuang auction house did not have the weight of New Deer City. Zhang Hong nodded his head in satisfaction and said, "See, everyone said that they did not see anything, so you were just making things up? From what I see, the Monarch Temple Bell was given a Qin Si by your Yushuang auction house, right? A weak treasure caused a participant to lose the competition. How can you accuse someone else? Is this the style of your Yushuang auction house?" Hearing that, Du Wenin did not know how to refute. Zhang Hong then shouted loudly, "All right, this old man will now announce. The champion of this year's New Deer Martial competition is participant Su Yun." "Damn it, you're spouting nonsense. Du Wenin, know what kind of place you are in. If you continue behaving atrociously, don't blame this old man for not giving face to your president Yushuang." Zhang Hong's face became cold. Hearing that, Du Wenin's face turned red and white. His mouth trembled for a long time, but he was unable to say anything. In the end, he swung his sleeves and left angrily. The Yushuang auction house had suffered a setback. Many people had different thoughts, but everyone was more interested in the mysterious owner of New Deer auction house. Seeing the situation, how could Zhu Wen dare to hesitate? He immediately shouted out loud, ladies and gentlemen, the results of the competition are out, and, as everyone can see, the champion of this year's competition is our participant Su Yun." Oh! A tsunami of cheers came out from the spectator stands. The champion was not Shun Wuya, not Li Chongzai, not even Han Yu Exen. It was not even one of the four representatives, but someone no one had ever heard of before, Su Yun. Su Yun was immersed in the cheers and applause, but his heart was extremely calm. In this battle, his cultivation coins, fighting strength, and even his techniques had all increased greatly. But this was not the end. The true trouble had just begun. Chapter 457. Through the life and death battles in the competition, Su Yun's fighting strength had increased by 900 points and currently had 6,000 points of fighting strength. Even his fighting strength ranking was no longer above 10 million, but an official ranking, 9,973,434. It was unimaginable how terrifying the first place would be, and even more unimaginable how terrifying the person who created the proof of qualifications was, to actually be able to calculate the fighting strength of everyone in the ultimate martial world. Such a technique was comparable to any mystical technique or divine ability. But what Su Yun was more concerned about were the cultivation coins. In Su Yun's first battle, he had a few dark horses, especially the battle with Bai Mu Jian, which allowed Su Yun to earn a total of 20 million cultivation coins. Although the banker had placed a limit on the number of bets, but Su Yun had placed the highest number of bets in every battle, and when the competition ended, he already had 28 million cultivation coins. Absorbing all of these cultivation coins, who knows how much my cultivation will increase to? According to common sense, with such a huge amount of assets, many spirit cultivator would choose to open a shop and use money to bring in a steady stream of cultivation coins. But Su Yun knew that he did not have the brains to do business and could not win against the merchants, so he gave up. The award ceremony was not conducted publicly. The spectators were all spirit cultivators. They only cared about the battles and the victors and did not care about the process of the award ceremony. Su Yun informed Lu Zhanyuan and allowed him to leave the competition grounds to recuperate. Then he was brought to the work area behind the competition grounds. At that moment, New Deer Auction House's president Zhang Hong and the higher-ups of the various organizations were waiting for Su Yun. The prizes were already prepared: a spirit card with 1 million cultivation coins, a top-grade spirit pill that could increase cultivation by 30 years. All of them were placed neatly on the tray. Su Yun walked in. Zhang Hong immediately stood up. He lifted the tray and walked towards Su Yun. "Little friend Su Yun, congratulations. Congratulations on becoming the champion of the competition. This is the prize for the champion of the competition. Please keep it well." Zhang Hong laughed and said. His expression was extremely amiable. Su Yun did not stand on ceremony. He counted the prizes and kept them in his storage ring, then cupped his fists. "Thank you, President Zhang. Sigh, what's there to thank? It is the result of your own hard work. This junior is referring to the matter regarding the Yu Shuang auction house. Su Yin replied, if not for President Zhang stepping out to stop them, I'm afraid the people from the Yu Shuang auction house would not have let this junior off. Yu Shuang auction house. Humph, this is New Deer City. The rewards and punishment should be handled by our New Deer auction house. Isn't the hands of the Yu Shuang auction house a bit too big? Why are you interfering here? Little friend Su, you don't have to be so polite. This is something this old man has to do. If I don't stop it, where will I put my face in the future? Other people will think that the owner of New Deer City is surnamed Yu. Zhang Hong snorted. No matter what, Su Yin still has to thank Master Zhang Hong. Su Yin laughed, although he knew that Lu Cheng and Yu Shuang did not get along. But Zhang Hong had protected him at the crucial moment. Su Yin did not want to judge what kind of person Zhang Hong was, but at that moment he owed him a favor. You're too polite, little friend Su. Zhang Hong chuckled and stroked his white beard. However, little friend Su, there's something I'm not sure if you're aware of. What is it? President Zhang, please speak clearly. It's regarding the Quick Blade sect. Little friend Su, this old man knows that you are young and your cultivation is not ordinary. In the competition, you accidentally killed someone, which is not your fault, but the people from the Quick Blade sect do not think that way. This old man has just received news that the sect leader of the Quick Blade sect has personally moved out and is nearing New Deer City, preparing to capture you and take revenge for his daughter. If you were to leave New Deer City like that, I'm afraid you will meet the people from the Quick Blade sect. Little friend Su is alone, and I'm afraid you are not an opponent for the experts from the Quick Blade sect. Hearing that, Su Yun became silent. May this old man be so bold as to ask, little friend Su, which sect are you from? Just then, Zhang Hong asked carefully. Ultimately, I'm a businessman. I will first try to get close to him, then try to get information out of him. Su Yin shook his head. The sect that I entered is just a small sect and is not in the eyes of President Zhang. Maybe President Zhang has never even heard of it. Oh, seeing that Su Yin did not speak, Zhang Hong was disappointed, but he secretly kept an eye on him. Ultimately, Su Yin is still someone from a sect, seeing that he is not old. His cultivation is unfathomable, but his strength is already so terrifying. I'm afraid that his sect is not simple. He definitely has a backer. If not, why would he dare to kill Dao Huang and Qin Si? If he doesn't have a backer, why would he have such guts? Forget it, regardless of whether he is from a sect or not. If I can pull him in a New Deer auction house, even if it is just to establish a cooperative relationship, it will definitely be beneficial. Zhang Hong pondered for a while before replying. Little friend Su, although this old man isn't some big shot, but in New Deer City, I am someone who would tremble with just a stomp of my feet. In this place, even if the Quick Blade sect leader personally comes, he would still have to listen to this old man. This old man admires little friend Su. If you stay in New Deer City, this old man will definitely be able to protect you. But if you leave, I'm afraid this old man will be powerless. But, little friend Su, if you are willing to join our New Deer auction house and become a person of New Deer City, then even if you leave New Deer City with this identity, the Quick Blade sect will definitely not dare to do anything to you. How about it? Little friend Su, what do you think? Su Yun had long known of Zhang Hong's thoughts, seeing how tactfully he was inviting him. Su Yun felt helpless and could only cup his fists and say, for President to have such thoughts, this junior is extremely grateful, just that this junior still has matters to attend to and cannot stay in New Deer City for long, much less join the New Deer auction house. Senior, please be at ease. This junior already has a plan to deal with the Quick Blade sect. Hearing that, the disappointment in Zhang Hong's eyes became denser. Oh, you already have a plan? Good. That's even better. This old man can be at ease. Since it's like that, President Zhang, this junior will not continue to nag anymore. Farewell. Zhang Hong's face became ugly, but he did not get angry. He pursed his lips and said, since it's like that, this old man will not urge little friend Su to stay in, send little friend Su out. Yes, President. A man dressed in New Deer auction house robes walked over and extended his hand out. Young noble Su, please. Please. Su Yin nodded his head. He turned and walked out. Although he had gained a lot from participating in the competition, he had unintentionally offended many people, and New Deer City was a place of trouble, so he had to leave early to avoid trouble. The man sent Su Yun to the exit of the competition grounds and left. Su Yun tugged on his cloak, seeing the sea of people on the main road of New Deer City. He immediately lowered his head and quickly walked towards the city gates. New Deer City's competition had just ended, and there were many spirit cultivators coming and going. There were strong and weak cultivators. The majority of them had hidden their fighting strength from their proof of qualifications, with most of them having fighting strength between 2,000 to 3,000, with 1,000 being the majority, 3,000 being the rarest, 4,000 being the rarest, and 5,000 and above could be considered as important figures. Upon thinking about the 7,000 fighting strength required to enter Beiyang, Su Yun started to guess. It is extremely rare to see people with 6,000 fighting strength in New Deer City, and Beiyang requires at least 7,000 fighting strength to enter. From the looks of it, I am afraid that New Deer City is one of the weaker regions in the ultimate martial world. For some reason, when he walked out of the competition grounds, Su Yun felt as though he was being watched by someone, causing his entire body to feel uncomfortable. He increased his pace and continued to weave through the crowd. Because of the Long Zhan's wrist protector, he was not afraid of anyone using spirit chi to lock onto his position. As long as he hid himself well, he would be able to shake them off. But just as Su Yun was weaving through the crowd, a light laugh came out from the front. "All right, let's stop here." Following that, the crowd in front of him suddenly dispersed. The spirit cultivators on the left and right all dodged to the sides in fear, leaving the place as though they were avoiding a god of plague. And in the middle of the road, there were a few men walking. All of them had astonishing spirit chi. They were extremely tyrannical. Looking at their spirit chi, they were at least at the 5th stage of the spirit master realm. They were all experts. And the person walking in the middle of them was actually Bai Shan, who had warned Su Yun twice. "It's you?" Su Yun's eyes congealed. "It's me, why? Are you surprised?" Bai Shan revealed a sneer, his eyes sweeping across Su Yun's body, and said coldly, "I never thought that you would actually have such guts. Ignoring the quick blade sect is one thing, but now you have offended my young master, offended the Yu Shuang auction house, and even offended the New Deer auction house that could be your umbrella. Hee, brat. Where exactly did you come from? To actually offend so many people in one go. Could it be that you can withstand the revenge of so many powerful forces?" I just had no choice. Su Yun shook his head. He felt that he was truly innocent. After all, he had never taken the initiative to provoke these powers. He suddenly thought of something and asked, "But come to think of it, how did I offend the New Deer auction house?" "You rejected the olive branch that President Zhang threw out. Isn't that an offense?" My young master had already discussed it with President Zhang. If you were willing to join the New Deer auction house, the matter with Miss Han could be dealt with lightly, but you swaggered out like that. It seems that President Zhang will definitely be disappointed, and my young master will no longer need to care about President Zhang's face. Su Yun, obediently follow me to meet my young master. If not, don't blame me for destroying your body and bringing your soul to meet the young master. Bai Shan spoke sinisterly. His eyes were like a venomous snake, staring at Su Yun sinisterly. Su Yun obtained the first place in the competition and definitely offended many important people. But I never thought that there would actually be such a big shot that dares to openly cause trouble on the streets of New Deer City. From this, it can be seen that this big shot is not ordinary. That's right. What kind of person is President Zhang Hong? For this person to dare to disregard his face, I'm afraid his background is even stronger than the 4 big organizations. Su Yun is really unlucky this time. Isn't he from the Quick Blade sect? TSK. Seems like forcing himself to be in the limelight is not a good thing. The passers-by whispered to each other in disgust. Su Yun looked at Bai Shan, his gaze secretly sweeping across the few people walking towards him, and thought, Bai Shan's cultivation is the highest out of all of them, but compared to Du Wen In from the Yu Shuang auction house, he is much weaker. Using the speed of the divine wind sword technique and the 7th tier imperial equipment to force his way out of the city might work. In truth, Su Yun had planned to do that from the start, but he never thought that there would be people who dared to cause trouble in New Deer City. But it did not matter. In terms of speed, he had absolute confidence. Just obediently give up, one of the spirit cultivators said. He immediately grabbed onto Su Yun's shoulder. Seeing that, Su Yun turned his feet and was about to move. But just at that moment of life and death, a clear voice suddenly came out from the sky above New Deer City. Stop. Chapter 458. The voice was clear like the sound of spring water. It was extremely pleasant to listen to, causing people to feel extremely comfortable. It was extremely beautiful. With that said, 2 green light beams shot down from the sky and landed by Su Yun's side. The light beams were extremely tyrannical, instantly striking the few spirit cultivators who were preparing to take Su Yun down and releasing their spirit chi. All of the spirit cultivators who were watching the commotion were all trembling from the spirit chi, their scalps going numb, and almost prostrated themselves like the people in the competition grounds. Another almighty being is here? Su Yun frowned. He did not move and quietly observed the situation. Seeing the sudden situation, Bai Shan's face changed. He bellowed, "Who are you? Such guts! Do you not know that I am from the Flowing Night aristocratic family? Furthermore, this is New Deer City's territory. You actually dare to fly above New Deer City. That is a blatant provocation. Quickly come down. If not, I will inform New Deer City, and all of you will be destroyed." Flying above the city was a rule of the ultimate martial world, and upon flying, it meant disregard, contempt, and provocation. The consequences would be dire. New Deer City? Humph! Just a small New Deer City. What's there to be proud of? Your Flowing Night aristocratic family is the same. Even if New Deer City and your Flowing Night aristocratic family are tied together, it is not even comparable to a finger of my family's young miss. Another clear voice came out. Following that, a gigantic, luxurious carriage descended from the sky, descending towards them. The carriage was gigantic and was pulled by 7 snow-white single-horned heaven horses. The carriage's door was embedded with gems. The 2 wings were mystical array diagrams drawn with resplendent scales. The bottom was glowing, as though there were multiple array formations operating. Behind the carriage was an exquisite small flag. On the flag were 2 large words that blossomed with a dazzling radiance. Huairou. Huairou aristocratic family? Seeing that, everyone's face changed. What? It's actually people from the Huairou family. Why are people from the Huairou family here? Look at the carriage. It is not simple. Who is the person on the carriage? What on earth happened today? Why did it attract such a great Buddha? The passers-by who had recovered all revealed astonished faces and stared blankly at the carriage. Bai Shan was even more shocked. How could he have thought that dealing with a nameless person would actually attract the attention of the Huairou family? What kind of big shot was the Huairou aristocratic family? Ordinary people might only have a vague idea of it and think that the Huairou aristocratic family was very strong, but Bai Shan was different. He had stayed in the Flowing Night aristocratic family for so many years and was very familiar with the name of the Huairou aristocratic family. Many years ago, the Huairou family was the same as the Nangong family, a small family. But over the past few years, the Huairou family had produced many talented people and obtained many opportunities. The family's strength grew day by day and was far from what the Nangong family could compare to. The Flowing Night aristocratic family was much stronger than the Nangong family. Adding on the fact that they were a merchant family, their strength was incomparably deep. Even the Lu Cheng, Yu Shuang, and the other merchant families had to give face to the Flowing Night aristocratic family. But against the Huairou family, they paled into insignificance and could not even be mentioned in the same breath. Bai Shan's face was a little pale as he looked at the slowly descending carriage frame. His eyes did not move at all. Even his breathing had become hurried. Some cold sweat flowed down from his face. How could he have imagined that Su Yun and the Huairou family would have such a connection? In fact, not only him, even Su Yun was shocked. He was still prepared to use the divine wind sword technique's speed to escape, but he never thought that the people from the Huairou family would actually appear at this time. Kacha! Just then, a light sound came out, and a lady dressed in green carefully walked out from the carriage frame door. The lady dragged a red carpet and extended out from the door. She then lowered the curtain on the door, and behind the curtain, a faintly discernible and graceful figure could be seen, and then the lady stood at the side of the carriage frame with her head lowered. Baishan looked at the person behind the curtain, opened his mouth, and anxiously walked over, cupped his fists and bowed. I am Baishan, the personal steward of the second young master of the Flowing Night aristocratic family, Lu Yuan. I wonder how I should address you, master. How dare you, you dog servant, to bow to my young miss and still need to stand? What? Are you looking down on my young miss? Quickly kneel. The lady dressed in green scolded angrily. Baishan was startled. He was at a loss. Xiaoyin, don't be so arrogant, in case people think that our Huai Rou family likes to bully others. Just then, a voice came out from behind the carriage frame. Hearing that, Baishan anxiously looked over. But the voice came out again. I am Huai Rou Mu Yu. This is Steward Bai. You should have heard my name before. Huai Rou Mu Yu. Baishan's entire body trembled. As though he had lost his soul, he stood there in a daze. Huai Rou Mu Yu. How could he not have heard of her? In the Flowing Night aristocratic family, as long as the Huai Rou family was mentioned, the name that was heard the most would undoubtedly be this. This was the peerless genius that came from the Huai Rou family, the lady that allowed the Huai Rou family to take a few big steps forward, the lady that led the Huai Rou family to engulf all the big and small businesses like a whale. Huai Rou Mu Yu? Did I hear wrongly? That person is Huai Rou Mu Yu? Oh my God, Huai Rou Mu Yu is here. The crowd seemed to have exploded into an uproar as all sorts of exclamations and shouts rang out. Some of the weaker male cultivators had already gone crazy. If it wasn't for the fact that they were afraid of the experts protecting the carriage, they would have already charged forward. Although Huai Rou Mu Yu's cultivation was not high, her intellect was extremely outstanding, especially her beauty. It was impeccable. If Han Yuxian was considered a peerless beauty in New Deer City, then Han Yuxian was undoubtedly a goddess. As expected, it's you, Mu Yu, why are you here? Su Yun laughed bitterly. He turned to look at the carriage frame and asked. The lady in the carriage secretly turned to look at Su Yun, but did not reply. She then turned and continued to ask Baishan. Steward Bai, this person called Su Yun has a deep relationship with my Huai Rou family. I wonder how did he offend your Flowing Night aristocratic family? I hope that Steward Bai can tell me everything. Mu Yu will decide if it is truly Su Yun's fault. Although my Huai Rou family has a deep relationship with him, we will definitely not protect him. Huai Rou Mu Yu spoke with determination, but in truth, she believed that Su Yun would not purposely create trouble, and with her understanding of Lu Yuan, the matter was most likely caused by Lu Yuan. As expected, upon saying that, Baishan started to stammer, not knowing how to reply. But just at that moment, a large number of figures quickly flew over from the center of New Deer City's competition area, flying over at an astonishing speed. Among them were Huawei Chamber of Commerce's president Chun Huawei, General Ringchain Chamber of Commerce's president Long Yu, New Deer Auction House's president Zhang Hong, as well as the Flowing Night aristocratic family's second young master Lu Yuan. The four of them quickly rushed over, not daring to be slow. Including Lu Yuan, all of them respectfully bowed towards the carriage frame, not daring to be slow in their actions. We greet Miss Huai Rou Mu Yu. The four of them greeted in unison. With the end of the competition, Lu Yuan had planned to settle the debt with Su Yun before leaving New Deer City. But who knew that someone would suddenly report to him, saying that Huai Rou Mu Yu had suddenly landed in New Deer City, causing the four of them to be shocked. He didn't stop to rest and immediately rushed over. Everyone, quickly get up. How can Mu Yu be able to accept the greetings of the seniors and young noble Lu Yuan? Huai Rou Mu Yu anxiously spoke. Her voice was filled with anxiety. She was extremely on point. Hearing that, the three presidents felt extremely happy to be called a senior by Huai Rou Mu Yu. Even if it was just a polite greeting, they felt that it was extremely pleasing to hear, since Huai Rou Mu Yu was not an ordinary person. Lu Yuan was even more excited. In his family, he had heard many rumors about her. It was said that she had an unparalleled talent in business and was a beauty that could cause the downfall of cities and empires, rarely seen in the immortal world. If he was able to marry her, he would have no regrets in his life. Lu Yiwen had heard of many rumors, but had never seen her before, causing his heart to itch. But when he heard that Huai Mu Yu had already been betrothed to Nan Gongqing from the Nangong family, he gave up on the idea. Who knew that not long later, he would hear that Huai Mu Yu had forcefully annulled the engagement with Nan Gongqing and was locked up by the Huai family for a few days. When the news came out, Lu Yiwen was once again reignited. His eyes were filled with passion as he stared at the curtains, wishing that his eyes could pierce through and see the beauty behind the curtains. Huai Mu Yu, who was behind the curtains, frowned. Although Lu Yiwen's gaze was extremely obscure, she could still catch the perverted look in his eyes. A strange light flashed past her eyes, but her expression did not change, and her tone became even more gentle. Mu Yu coincidentally passed by here to handle some matters, and coincidentally bumped into my Huai family's old friend Su Yun, so I specially came here to understand the situation. Since all the seniors and young noble Lu Yi are here, then this matter should be easily resolved. Manager Bai, I hope that you can explain the entire situation and let everyone analyze it, what happened, who was in the wrong, and give everyone justice. This, no one is right and no one is wrong. Miss Huai Lu Yiwen has already sent people to investigate. In truth, it was all a misunderstanding, just a misunderstanding. Just then, Lu Yiwen suddenly revealed a warm smile. He cupped his fists towards Huai Mu Yu and said, "Misunderstanding? Is that true?" "Of course." Lu Yiwen laughed. Huai Mu Yu gave everyone a good impression, and no one thought that Huai Mu Yu would investigate further. Initially, they thought that the matter would be resolved, but everyone, including the four of them, had underestimated Huai Mu Yu. Her killing intent would always appear when no one was paying attention. Huai Mu Yu then spoke to Su Yun. "Young noble Su, do you think that this is a misunderstanding?" It was a simple sentence, but it caused Lu Yiwen's smile to freeze. If Huai Mu Yu truly wanted to keep the peace, she would definitely not say those words, but she did not seem to want to keep the peace from the start. Every single word she said was respectful. Her tone was gentle, causing people to not be wary of her, but that did not mean that she was not angry. "What do you think?" Suyin did not understand Huai Mu Yu's thoughts and casually asked. Unexpectedly, Huai Mu Yu's reply caused everyone to be stupefied. "I don't think so." Huai Mu Yu spoke without hesitation. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.